one thing that's fascinated me was the thought that, some of these religions had it right with respect to attempting to understand the human condition and attempting to mitigate it through teachings. And now, unfortunately, with the dogma of belief and knowledge, we've obscured from view our capacity to understand. So that's something that fascinates me a lot. So I wrote out just a little introduction to a book that I'm interested in writing. The first book. I'll include narcissists and other things in there. Because they're spoken about in the Bible. And so what I want to do is essentially retranslate the Bible into modern words by, rather than being stuck on the dogma of historical fact or scientific fact, we examine the truth of people at the time and recontextualize the teachings as something meant for the transformation of individual people, where in the view of ontology, heaven was a metaphorical representation of the experience of enlightenment through the teachings of Jesus Christ, as opposed to an afterlife. And what they talk about being born again would be the process of experiencing reality absent the rumination of the voice within the mind. That when they talk about God, what they're talking about is the limitless expanse of the human imagination, unencumbered by fear and doubt, unencumbered by the boundaries of an identity fortified in language generated by the child. And so in that context, the fall from innocence, the tree of knowledge that Adam and Eve bit the apple, was the moment in which the human being as a child created themselves in language. By creating themselves in language, they bifurcated and split themselves and separated themselves from the world. That words are used to bring distinction to things in the physical realm. That you look at objects and you create a word. Like this is the cup. And the word cup merely distinguishes this cup from the world that's around it. And so the world of distinction in language is a human effort to understand the world through assigning meaning. And the words embody and imbue meaning onto objects. The problem is that when you imbue a human being with meaning, meaning I say about myself, I'm a failure as a child. Now what ends up happening is that creates profound boundaries on my beingness, that in my own imagination and navigating the world within my mind, I now have traits and attributes like an object that exists outside in the world. So I'm describing myself outside in the world within my mind, that becomes a projected overlay to the reality of the world outside. But the human gift of imagination is a capacity to create and recreate the world outside, as to navigate and premeditate and plan and understand. Absent language, human beings would be more like animals. Like a dog that loses a leg doesn't think of itself as a broken dog and disqualify itself from reproducing or playing frisbee. Because it doesn't have language to describe itself, it doesn't exist within itself, within an imagination. And so human suffering can be seen literally within the language that human beings use to describe themselves. And so if you look at children, they don't have boundaries, they don't have fears, they don't have rules, they don't have limitations. They play, they don't see a black kid or a white kid, they just see children. They don't separate themselves. You see, the language we use to identify ourselves, either in groups, religions, or as an individual, we continue to live in a world of meaning, looking for the meaning of life within a realm that actually itself only has meaning that human beings generate. It's why we struggle to find the meaning of love. It's why we struggle to find the meaning of life. And all meaning is an invention of the human imagination in a world that would have none without human beings to create the meaning. A human being that can say that life is empty and meaningless, and it is empty and meaningless, that it is an empty and meaningless, would be somebody that would be ushered into the domain and realm of being, one absent of an experienced self, while still being imbued with all the knowledge and wisdom of the life that they have accumulated to this point. The challenge with the rules or of engagement was that Jesus contextualized sin not as a moral framework to guide people within the ordinary living of life, but something that would prevent the human being from being able to maintain themselves within the world of God, the world of the limitlessness of the imagination, the same world that children live within. Original sin would have been, there's something wrong with me, I'm broken. The words that a child would say that would imbue them and separate them from the world, create boundaries, distinction, that then would have them exist within their own imagination. And the interesting phenomenon is that God, in this context, would be the creator of the world. The creator of the world is the one that said the words and cast Satan from heaven. Satan was an angel, and that would be the entity that occupies the human experience, that says the bad things, that has no discernment, that foils and sabotages the experience of a person. A necessary ingredient for children in order to navigate a reality with narcissists. That everything that a person said to themselves as a child is actually something that their conscious mind created to protect them, to have them be able to coexist in hell, to have them be able to experience their parents and see the good in them by imbuing them with words and bifurcating their discernment. That rather than being able to be aware of their surroundings, these notions of self separated us from reality, became an intermediary. The voice is our interpreter. The voice is our being. The voice is something that tells us who we are, what this means. And so when you listen to the voice tell you about reality. When you see depictions of a devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other, that would create the experiential separation between us and God, where we listen to the devil, and the devil is the one that tricks us. It tells us in order to get love, we have to do this. We're not enough the way we are. We need to fix ourselves. And we continue to feast on the tree of knowledge. The tree of knowledge has created a book this thick to stigmatize human beings and imperil them from finding the truth that they created themselves. The truth is that the mind and the imagination is of limitless potential and capacity, a realm of possibility that can generate from nothing, anything. A world of choice where human beings are not guided by fear, not guided by knowings of themselves that would imbue them with limitations, that has them worried about being right or wrong or looking good. And that we have to exist as pretentious beings, false beings, being nice, concealing the fact that we have, in a sense, cursed ourselves and damned ourselves. But you see, the path of righteousness would be one where we surrender, where we forfeit and forgive, and we allow ourselves to experience ourselves separate from the past, separate from our knowings of self, that we have to consider the truth that sets us free is the truth that the things that we say about ourselves today are not true, and they most certainly were not true for us as children. Yet, those terms, those knowings are not more than just feelings. They're profound knowings of self that themselves are imbued with emotion that comes from the experiences of failure as children when we transition from beings to humans that were separated from reality, that live split between our own imagination and that simulated world within our mind that we project as an overlay as we listen for ourselves, that we are looking for ourselves in reality, finding ourselves in objects, finding ourselves in possessions and money and numbers, finding ourselves in the thoughts and ruminations of other people, the judgments of people who judge themselves. the people within the glass houses that throw stones. That this person here thinks they're broken, and they're going to think you're broken, and they're going to treat you in avoidance of their own failure and their own pain. A world where our inability to feel love and have discernment is a result of thinking we're broken and thinking we need to fix ourselves first. And so the thoughts of being not enough, not good enough, or something's wrong imbue us with anxieties, fears, and emotions that separate ourselves from our own empathy, where empathy now exists in an imaginary capacity where we project ourselves onto others and imbue them with our traits, unable to really see what is happening outside of ourselves, imperiling us to repeat the same mistakes because we merely repeat the same knowings of self to describe the results of our life, that you fail, you're a failure. Things happen to you because you're not good enough. That you're getting narcissists abusing you and you think it's you think it's your fault. And you'll think that within the relationship, you'll think it after the relationship. You'll think, oh my God, I was not good enough, I got discarded. Then you'll go, nope, they're a narcissist. It wasn't my fault, but it's my fault that I dated this person, that there's something wrong with me because I keep making these same mistakes. I need to go figure it out. I need to study, I need to understand, I need to learn, I need to read a book. But you see, the tree of knowledge merely fills us with more meaning. Words that do not have anything to do with experiential transformation or knowing ourselves outside of our mind, out in the real world. And that's why the more you learn about yourself, the more despair you feel, because you start to feel as if you know too much to allow this to keep happening. But it happens because you obey the same voice that told you to fix yourself. Is the same one that you listen to when people talk. When you listen to people, you listen to what you think that they mean about you. Somebody's telling you about something you did wrong, you hear that I'm wrong, you hear that there's something wrong with me, you hear that I'm not good enough. The feelings come back and you try to fix yourself, unable to discern whether there's validity behind what they said or not. You become a walking guilt trip. You live your life in a relationship to reality defined by your child mind. When you said I'm not good enough, you meant that you were not good enough for the world. You were not good enough for the situation. And the only way you could make it is if you became perfect. You became good enough. You became healed. You became fixed. And in your effort to save yourself within the domain of knowledge, you have imperiled yourself. You have stigmatized yourself. And now we have a world of psychology with a book this thick that can take the ordinary patterns of people who think they're broken, the nuanced variations of the experience of being somebody with the collage of knowings, unlovable, unwanted, broken, something's wrong with me, not good enough, I don't know, I can't, and try to resolve those notions with more external validation, with more learning, with more acquisition of knowledge, the same knowledge of dogma, the same knowledge of belief and identity, where your capacity for understanding yourself merely furthers your distinctions from others, mandating that you're better than other people or less than other people, imperiling a whole of humanity to be able to understand their oneness, understand their connection, understand that every single individual in the whole of humanity suffers from the same confusions of self. Every single person has cast themselves from the limitlessness of being to the ordinary nature of a mind imperiled within the rigid boundaries of an understanding of self, an understanding of self that contaminates the space of imagination, one that would be infinite and abundant and is now ordinary, where we have taken the expanse of our visual, experiential world and trained it down to focus on the smallness of our problems with the bigness of the emotions of a hurt child. And so those early relationships to parents, early relationships to teachers, early relationships to the world outside that made us scared, helpless, unlovable, broken, small, fearful, frozen, not understanding, confused, become repetitive. And our addiction is not to the validation of others per se. It is the addiction to the obedience, to the voice that tells you you have to listen to it to heal. You have to listen to it to to become perfect. You have to listen to it to strategize. And you have to listen to it to become somebody you're not, in a constant driven effort to fix and change yourself, fix and change life, fix and change others in order to get your needs met, in order to get your life to work. In a self-serving pursuit of significance, individuation, identity, meaning, purpose, and love, in a world where we have bifurcated our own capacity for love, our own capacity for discernment, our own capacity for communication, because we cannot hear others. We can merely understand others through the ruminations of our own mind in a constant comparison to what has already happened, causing us to perpetually repeat the same experiences, failing to recognize that each moment is new and totally disconnected from the past. And the truth is that a human being can exist free, and the free will offered is unavailable in a world of decisions, weighted by reasons, fueled by knowledge, and contributed to and bound by profound emotional consequences, fears of saying no, fears of saying yes, fears of imagining a future that violates your own understanding of self, an understanding of self that was created within the small mind of children. Children too undeveloped to truly understand the nature of reality. Yet somehow, some way, those children still run the whole of humanity. And our effort to understand God is the same effort that separates us from God, from the God within and the God that is at the source of everything in creation, only to be connected through the experience of life, not within the ruminations of the indoctrinated self, the slave to the voice within our imagination, encasing us in boundaries of fear and consequence, and doomed to repeat the failures of the past and make those failures mean the same things that caused the failures. I'm not good enough, I'm broken, there's something wrong with me and I can't. That was the angel that descended upon this world, the one that occupies the mind of all men, women, and children, who we worship and are obedient to. And the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to convince the world it didn't exist. That you think that you are the voice when you are just the one listening. And that's why when you speak the truth from your soul, you come alive, you become inspired. You can absolutely abolish the darkness within when you can bring to words the very language of that darkness. And that when you speak on top of the voice, meaning you could hear the voice screaming and yelling that you're broken, while you say out loud, I give up the right to have the complaint that I'm broken in my life forever. I give up the right to have the complaint that I'm not good enough in my life forever. I give up the right to have the complaint that there's something wrong with me in my life forever. I give up the right to have the complaint that I'm confused in my life forever. I give up the right to have the complaint that I can't in my life forever. And as you do that and you listen to the voice protest, every time you say that, you will hear the voice go silent. And every piece of non-reality that you find within your mind and you disconnect from, you will take your freedom back. You will feel a profound expanse, a constraint and weight lifted. And if you do that in totality, you will be looking at life in complete shock and amazement. And the path has been made clear. With the modern terminology of ontology, as well as our understanding of psychology, all that's required is a broadening of the lens to understand the relationship between the words created to describe an individual and the world that the individual experiences living within. That for the individual, they see I'm not good enough. They hear it in the speaking of other people, said or unsaid, intended or not intended. Everything outside of ourselves becomes symbolic of ourselves. So we exist trying to prove ourselves through work, through objects we create, through outcomes that we invent. always attempting to find ourselves in a perpetual vicious cycle of an unfulfilling, mediocre existence of suffering and lovelessness and disconnect, confusing validation for what we do with the love of who we are, never able really to connect. And people want to know what love is. Love is just love. Happiness is happiness. Sadness is sadness. Red is red. Blue is blue. There are things foundational to the human experience that cannot be described because they are singular entities of occurrence. That love is merely an experience of existence, one of many, not any more or any less. And as we try to find the meaning of love, love is the meaning of love. And absent human experience, all meaning is created by human beings. That life itself, outside of the experience of being a human being, is itself empty and meaningless. And it is empty and meaningless, that is empty and meaningless. It doesn't mean anything that life itself has no meaning. It means that human beings are free to invent their own meaning, their own way of being, their own view of life. And we have done that already. It's just that your meaning is I'm not good enough. Your meaning is I'm broken. Your meaning is there's something wrong with me. And when you get rid of that meaning, you can create a new meaning. The meaning I've created is that I make a difference. And that's it. And so that's what I see outside of myself. Rather than seeing broken, rather than seeing there's something wrong, I don't need the voice. The voice is quiet. Experiencing this level of awareness is so interesting because I'll be live streaming and I'll have people say, how are you feeling? I won't even know. I won't know how I'm feeling because I'll have to actually get outside of the flow of talking to check. Because what happens is that when you're not in your head in consideration of self, you're not paying attention. That your emotions are trained to that of other people. That without me judging, criticizing, evaluating, right or wronging other people, I just listen to them. And I can feel them. And then I could know them. And then I could speak to them and I can see I'm no different from them and I'm no better or worse than them, that they are exactly the same as me. And that the only distinction between me and another person would just be that I don't think I'm broken. That I don't think I'm not good enough. And I don't think that there's something wrong with me. And I don't let go of those thoughts because I did something outside to prove that they don't exist. That I didn't fix my business, that I didn't improve myself, that I didn't find a cure, that I didn't fix anything. It's when I stopped fixing, when I stopped looking for answers. The answers were there all along. That within my mind, unbound by notions of fear, failure, brokenness, and not good enough, my imagination's a playground. I can go into any moment of my life, look at what was going on, and see it totally different. That the mind is so expansive and powerful that I was there the whole time, meaning that I understood what was going on and I obscured what was going on by only allowing myself to see what was necessary for my little people-pleasing self to try to make mom or dad happy. I didn't need to see that mom or dad were bad people. I didn't need to be afraid of them. I needed to think that I could make a difference. I needed to think I could help them. I needed to think if I made them happy, I would make it. I needed to believe that if I did that, they would love me. Therefore, I would keep trying, because if I were to encounter the truth of those people, I wouldn't survive. I was too small for the world. I needed them. So in a sense, I protected myself by giving myself the power to coexist with people that would think I was broken, to coexist with people that would guilt trip me, to coexist with people that because they cannot see themselves, they cannot see us either. That children are too perfect and pure for this world. That children are unable to deal with the evil of the world because they don't have it. Unless they're a psychopath, children are innocent. That they just exist and they have normal feelings and, they're just kind of learning the world. And the moment they fail or have some kind of setback, they're going to be told a bunch of stuff daddy and mommy's angry. They look at the situation and they go, uh-oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough for my mommy and for my daddy. I gotta be perfect. And I feel broken and they don't love me unless I'm perfect. So if I can become perfect, then mommy and daddy will love me again. And now for the rest of the life, that person needs to try to be perfect because they created themselves as imperfect. They created themselves in their mind and objectified themselves. They individuated themselves. And what do we want? We want understanding. We want people to accept our brokenness, accept the lies. And so you go to a narcissist looking for approval, acceptance, validation, experiencing love merely because you feel better about yourself in the company of somebody that will fill you full of false validation and then devalue you to get their way. And that's why those people were called demons, because the little demon that lives within us is what they talk to and how they see us as they see our brokenness. They see you're not good enough and they speak directly to it in tongues of wickedness. And they can't be in the company of love. They can't be in the company of good people, and so they have to transform you. And so you had to transform yourself to exist in a world of demons, to exist in a world of people that only exist as the voice in their head, separate from their conscious mind, bifurcated, having sold themselves out to protect themselves. They're human beings that are incapable of transformational learning because they don't have access to the dimensions of love and creativity, that they let it go. In a sense, they prayed their way out of it, that they used their mind for the last time, and that the pain and the fear was so real that they created themselves as unlovable creatures, as broken in totality. Whether they could be saved, I don't know. I had interesting conversations with them. But for all intents and purposes, the Bible created them to be demonic. In my life, when I say there's 7 narcissists, I'm like reading about the Leviathan spirit as like the final boss. Like if you read about Leviathan, the demonic entity of Leviathan was like the final blockade to one's peace on earth. You see, but the earth that they're talking about was not the physical realm per se, but the human being's relationship to it. That the Genesis story was a story of the birth of life for an individual, that we created our own world in our mind, that the human gift of imagination is one that connects us to the consciousness at the source of all creation, because it imbues us with the limitlessness of spontaneous ideations from nothing, that we can create, that we created DNA. Not that DNA didn't exist without it, but like God, we could imagine DNA and then reality test it. That your brain is a big reality testing simulation, that you have a virtual world within your mind that you take for granted. The art of enlightenment, the way that I created in coaching, is I take people out of rumination by challenging them to put themselves in a moment. I force them to go back to the world of visual experience, meaning the living world in their mind, not the dead one of knowledge. The dead one of knowledge does nothing for you. When you can transfer the information to the living reality of your mind, then you have power. That's how I could create all of this knowledge from nothing, that I could take terms from out here, and rather than memorizing them, I don't need to memorize them because they go right into the living world and they become understanding. And it happens so fast that I couldn't explain why I could understand things. I would say, well, I don't know. I didn't study it. I don't read. I don't even think. I'm just driving. Literally driving. And I could be focused on the road and I'll just keep having, little light bulbs. And then I go, it's like a feeling, when you forget what you're gonna say. You ever had the feeling like it's right there? You know what that is? That's your voice in your head stopping you. See, the voice in your mind stops ideation and creativity. It says it's too risky. You got hurt as a being. You don't want to be a free being. You need to be under control. You need to be under my control to protect you. You need to be the small person. You need to be the careful person. You need to be the planner. You need to prepare yourself so you don't get rejected. You don't want to be wrong. And so your ability to try to be right means that you need to go to the tree of knowledge and absorb outside information from the minds of other people. And that's the tool of indoctrinating children, is to bifurcate them from their own source of wisdom and understanding, replacing it with the world of knowledge, where knowledge has no power anymore, where you just argue to understand the world. Like, you think that arguing in righteousness is going to make any difference. And the only thing that made a difference was what got people nailed to crosses. Oh, Jesus was making a difference. Look at what they did to him. Martin Luther King, he had a dream. His dream wasn't protesting to be right. His dream was to get Congress to change legislation. His dream was a table of brotherhood that was all inclusive, not entitled to victimhood, but just a possibility that the infectiousness of thoughts and ideas that come from love and come from the pure goodwill of other people who constitute themselves within a context of making a difference for others, becomes dangerous to a world that has so much invested in the ordinariness of societies, that the gift of the imagination is bestowed upon all people, and the vastness of the gift of intelligence and discernment as well. But the visual world of experience is trained on your problems, where you're merely using it within the boundaries of your fear to solve the same problem. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Good enough, good enough, good enough. And thinking the only way you learn and grow is to improve the inauthentic behavior that you engage in an effort to perpetually fix what is never broken. That if you were able to see the moments of Genesis where you gave being to yourself through language, you would find that the very language used did not match reality, that you forfeited discernment when you thought your parents treated you that way because you were unlovable. Your parents treated you that way because you were broken, that you got put in special classes because there was something wrong with you or you were stupid. And so when you said, I'm stupid, I'm broken, I'm not good enough, there's something wrong with me, you created yourself, a contextual being. And see, you're fooled by feeling good enough. You think that's healed. You think that your success materially is going to satiate your need to belong and fit in and be and exist. That you've been seduced into the material world where you identify yourself through objects, through numbers, through money, through the opinions of other people, through where you fit into society. And they have you keeping up with the Kardashians. They have you believing stigmas and diagnoses. They have you taking pills. It's not that you can't stop taking them, because you probably shouldn't until you free your mind. Because if you're going to live in anxiety and depression because you think you're broken, well, then from that context, within that world, you are broken. Because you made the world around you. And you have no discernment. That's why you can't avoid narcissists. That's why you keep getting betrayed. That's why everything's your fault. And everything's in your fault. And then you get to watch the election was stolen. You get to watch your boyfriend and girlfriend who cheated on you, ruined your life, happy as a clam, smearing you as you live in recoiling fear by the amplification of the very failures of your childhood that imperil you to paranoia, fear, smallness, and helplessness, that your power, your freedom, your self-expression is your own. And it's got nothing to do with other people. Like, what would it be like to live beyond the boundaries? That's why, Jesus said, no sword formed against me will prosper. In other words, there's nothing anybody can say about me that makes a difference, because I'm just me. That I don't change because someone's upset. I don't change because I fail or disappoint. Why would I do that? Why would I be a failure? Why would I be broken? Why would I be not good enough? Why would I allow anybody in this world to say those things when they say that about themselves already? What would inspire somebody to highlight my brokenness and be in defiance of my truth? What would conjure somebody to want me to hurt and feel guilt and shame as a condition of the acceptance of my responsibility? Well, they don't want my responsibility. They don't want my power. They want my defeat. They want my smallness because they need it to feel good about themselves. So, while not a conventional Christian, I've always thought to myself that there was definitely something true about this man. But it would take somebody aware of what it was that he was doing to understand it at all. That if you tried to understand it logically, then it would never make sense, or it would just be dogma or beliefs. That the heaven was here, that he was in heaven. And in his view, he descended down. That the beingness of Jesus was a creation of the God within him, that he created himself to be a difference maker, distinct from what he would have been as an ordinary man, and that his life and his crucifixion was literally a living model for how to be in the world. And the crucifixion was the demonstration of being, that his person could allow that to happen because they didn't fear. It showed the truth. It showed the price of sin. But the price of sin would have been his dissension. It would have been the ordinary person returning. It would have been a replacement of the being of Jesus and the man, the guy, the dude with his own desires, his lusts, his selfishness, his fear, his failure, defining him, his past. A world where he doesn't get to say who he is anymore. The world does. And so sin in that context is just the antithesis of enlightenment. It was, if you embark on the journey of sin, which would just be anything that serves you, it's your own self-significance and your need to differentiate, identify, be better, improve, end your suffering. And end your suffering with external validation, external objects, external verification, external opinions, external ideas, external knowledge. To me, it's just the only way to explain the phenomenon of this person. I actually would say, looking at the teachings, there's so much profound wisdom that it's almost unconscionably immaculate. Like, it's so good that, the reason I started thinking about it was really when I started to tease out all the dimensions of my own experience to make videos, I started to get more and more clear, more and more peaceful, more and more separated from the fears, the failures, the humiliations, that I was finding more and more freedom, especially in doing coaching, that in talking to people, it's like I was learning, but it was like in such real time. And that when I saw something about the tree of knowledge, and I was like, why would they see knowledge as such a bad thing? And I thought about the ruminating mind, and I thought about people reading books, and I thought about how many people are existing as stigmatized. And I can talk to somebody that has borderline personality disorder and break that apart, like just deconstruct that. And so my interest is making books, and then I want to get a degree in psychology. The reason for the psychology is to be able to conduct research, to better understand the prevalence of narcissists in societies and reconstitute history by understanding the implications of their immersement within our societies and cultures. Also to introduce a new domain of psychology, that the experience of enlightenment is an ordinary experience that happens to ordinary people. And it really is nothing more than a person simply existing as a normal person without the voice in their mind. That's all it is that people meditate and cause that. The only difference is that meditation doesn't necessarily address the causes of the need to meditate, meaning if you could meditate and make the voice go quiet and become present, well, the voice will come back because it's indistinguished. And when I say indistinguished, psychology used to describe the individual as something that they listen for and look for in reality. And so the moment they go back into the world, they're going to get triggered. They're going to have a button push. They're going to fall out of being. They're going to essentially, reconstitute themselves by feeling the failure, by feeling the not good enough. Because you see, those thoughts they're not feelings, they're knowings, but they're part of a contextual phenomenon that's elusive to the mind. It's elusive because the fear it engenders prevents even looking at the past. The fear it engenders, keeps us from looking within our mind to see what's really going on and connecting the dots between our current experiences and those of the past and seeing that they're exactly the same. That on paper, if I document all the emotions of somebody in a discard phase with the narcissist, that exact list will be found in moments in their childhood, exact moments. The very first moment that someone said, I'm not good enough, all the emotions that they experience when they experience being not good enough as an adult are the same, exactly the same. That the way in which the child understood what happened was not real. It was lacking discernment. The child could not really understand their dad's a narcissist. They would only understand that dad doesn't love me. I'm unlovable. I'm not good enough for dad. And so that meaning that they added is the meaning that they add to life. Meaning that when somebody talks to you, you're sensitive. Your ear is trained. Like the voice in your mind talks to you while they talk, and you listen to your voice. You react to the voice in your mind. The voice says they're disrespectful. The voice says that they're threatening you. The voice says that there's something wrong here. The voice says there's something wrong with them. The voice says they're right, they're wrong. And your righteousness and your correctness is an attachment to your view of reality. That if you look at all the conflict that exists in the humanity, all we're doing is arguing over what's real and the path forward, because our individual path forward and our group's path forward is based on the reality of our own mind, and we segregate and congregate based on the commonality of our own sufferings. And then we imagine a world only working when we can take these beliefs that we have that protect us from reality and bestow them upon others. That when people recite the Bible, they don't even understand the passages. That if I have a conversation with somebody, they will shut down because they can't keep up with somebody that generates understanding. That they'll run out of pages, they'll run out of memories, they'll run out of facts. You'll see them need to go find something like, let me go back to Google. That's why they gave you Google. You want the answers, you got Wikipedia. Now, I'm not saying that you should invent all your knowledge. I'm saying it happens without your permission, that I don't have a choice but to understand because I don't have to actively pursue knowledge. That everything I know that I share in my videos was just happened inside my head. I'm just driving. I would just be driving around and I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't explain it. It was new. And I try to describe what it's like. I try to say, I can't describe to you what it's like to see your imagination in such depth. I can't describe how big it is. I can't describe what it's like to know that I felt too small for my business. And now I feel, like the world is small. Like I feel like compelled to do something, that there isn't an audience that's too large, or there isn't a goal that's too big, but the goals are no longer for me. That the only thing I'm interested in is being there for other people, and then always trying to find a way out of my own way. That I had to start to deal with something, that the struggles of the last few months was my attachments, meaning that I just wanted my car to run. I want to get the business to work. I want to make it right. I want to enjoy it. I want to be able to, partake in this meaningful game of, success and prosperity. But I'm like, why would I want that? This world is coming unglued, you know? I live in a world where it's almost like the thicker the DSM has gotten, the more school shooters we have. Like, the answers that we keep providing are not making much of a difference collectively, that it's almost absurd to think that what science would say is that human beings somehow are this flawed, that human beings with all our intelligence are incapable of cooperating, and we don't see that in nature. You know, that we have worse behaviors than chimpanzees. Like, we call them wild, but the truth of the matter is that at least they've got order and organization. At least they're not parasitizing off each other. At least they're not cannibals. You know, you don't find any serial killer chimps, do you? You know, because those behaviors never work in nature. You know, like living in boxes, left to the vices of sick parents in a world that takes knowledge and the joy of learning and turns it into a percentage, like burning it into your mind. And I think about myself and my creativity and how what this world said is I was sick, that I was mentally ill, that I was broken. And to think it takes 43 years for me to figure out that that was a lie. And the truth of the matter is I said it, though. You see, the only person that's ever said anything about me that's made any difference is myself. And the only reason the words of other people have hurt me is because they agreed with the things I already thought, things I was hiding. When I'm going through college, I'm hiding that I think I'm stupid. I'm hiding that I'm unwanted. I'm hiding that I don't matter. I'm hiding that I'm broken. I'm hiding that I'm not really good enough. And those fears prevented me from seeing the guidance counselor, prevented me from having meaningful talks about my future, prevented me from using my mind to put myself in medical school. And that's it. You know, and so there's no victim stories here. I'm not a victim. Well, why do I say that? Because I victimized myself. I said I'm not good enough. I said I'm broken. I got discarded, and I decided that meant there's something wrong with me. Oh, not the cheating girlfriend. She was okay. I just didn't measure up anymore. She met me, and I was really a wonderful guy, and somehow my depression got the best of me again. And if I went to a doctor, that's what they would say. They would say, oh my gosh, so you're depressed. Well, how long have you been depressed? Oh, 6 months. Oh, 6 months. And, you know, sounds like you might have a bipolar disorder. Well, my mom has that. Oh, okay, so it's in your family. Yeah, it's a genetic thing too. It's like, fuck, dude. My family is all narcissists, including my mom. My dad's a narcissist with sadism, or maybe you can call him malignant. I don't know. At least rage, you know, he has rage. You know, as a kid, you know, he snapped the neck of a cat, you know, in front of, the, you know, us little kittens, you know. He used to take us to rehearse, you know, premeditated murder. You know, our father used to take me shooting with them. And I had to watch and try to understand why my father was teaching my 3-year-old brother how to fire a .22 with hollow points and saying the name of the people my dad thought my mom was sleeping with. So as our visitation with our dad was on the weekends, he would take us to the gun range, and he explained why he has to fix our family by, you know, by going to my mom's job with the .357 Magnum and hollow points and a .22. And my mom, you know, a covert narc that just always thought I was broken. She's the one that put me in special ed. The school didn't recommend it, she did it. Because she didn't want to have to do homework with me. Yeah. And so I lived a life of negation and invisibility, where I always wanted to make my mother happy, and I never could. And I didn't know. And I didn't know that I didn't know. And so these knowings are not existent just in the understanding, that you could understand everything, but if your understanding doesn't exist as alive and real within the visual domain of your reality, then you don't have freedom of discernment. That you can learn everything you want to know, that you could get a degree in theology, you could get a degree in Jesus, you could get a degree in Buddhism, you could know all the passages of the Bible, and you could believe in Jesus. And the believing has nothing to do with understanding the teachings, has nothing to do with being the embodiment. That it wasn't a moral crusade, it wasn't to teach the world how to act right. Why would you want that? They already knew that. I mean, people already knew, don't kill other people. I mean, you didn't need somebody to tell you, to, respect elders and to, not piss your pants, and throw your garbage away and not to screw your neighbor's wife. Did you really need a religion for that? No, you didn't. And to think that, the ticket to heaven would be a moral life and believing things that imperil your brain, like literally righteous entitlement to fear-based indoctrinated beliefs that have no value or meaning in the living of your life, that it gives you nothing. It gives you no freedom except for emotional comfort, emotional comfort of Jesus, going to somehow make it easier for you to make money or get laid, or, it's going to intervene on your behalf. No. Nope. Doesn't work that way. Your prayers would never be answered without discernment anyway, but you can't see. You don't even know what to look for. So people pray for bullshit, and then they get a credit card in the mail and think that God has answered my quest for more money. Oh my God, I prayed for a soulmate, and here's another narcissist. Oh wow. Yeah, no, because when you're praying in a state of fear, confusion, pain, you're talking to the wrong God. You're talking to the wrong God. The only thing that you want from God is His peace and awareness. The only thing you want is who to be, how to be. The only thing you want is what to let go of, what to surrender to. The only thing you want is the truth. The truth will set you free. And the truth isn't a belief. The truth isn't, surrendering to what you don't understand. The truth is understanding what you couldn't understand before. The truth is what's hidden from view. The truth is the dismemberment of the lies from your being. The truth has nothing to do with believing. The truth is knowing. You know the truth. You don't believe what's true. Because if you have to believe something that you don't understand, then you don't know the truth. So it's know the truth, not believe what you think is true. And things don't become true because you believe them. So whatever people believe, it doesn't matter to me. Temperature. But can't keep it from overheating. If I just turn the juice down, put on the lower amperage. So there's so many things that there's many different truths. The truth to me is really simple, is that there is an experience of being a human that is just obscured, it's prevented, that we were just this way and then we weren't. And language is part of the problem, because language allows us to create meaning and allows us to objectify objects and create words as symbols so we could share ideas and knowledge. However, the words that we use to describe ourselves objectified us and viewed us with traits and properties that became real and defined and connected to powerful emotions that are situated within sympathetic fight or flight reactions that makes it real. Just like an animal that reacts to a hyena or an external threat, we react to the knowing of our not good enough. And so you react to that and you address life like a threat. You dress, with the same animalistic urges that animals use to destroy one another, run away from one another, that's your view of life. And the freedom is to dissociate from those words, and it happens instantly. That the mind is that powerful, that the psychology that we keep trying to mitigate is just the output of a process. That whenever you feel not good enough, you're going to have feelings. Whenever you think you're broken, you're going to have feelings. And so we keep trying to fix the feelings by doing things and learning things. And we have a whole world that's catered to attempting to fix people. And you can't fix people because they're not broken. That there's nothing broken about them. That it's literally just the way that they experience themselves. And that experience is easily explainable. And this isn't a theory, this is true. This is not theoretical. This is something that happens to people. That, what Buddha was able to achieve as an enlightened experience is real. That Buddhist people meditate and they have practices that empower them to experience this different way of existing. It's archaic and old, and it doesn't adhere to all the things that we come to understand. And so what can take a Buddhist 12 years to achieve in meditation, somebody could achieve in an hour in language, because no matter what it is you do, you always are going to be engaging the psychology of the mind. That you can call it spiritual, you can call it whatever. It's just that there have been people that, through whatever means, whether it's drugs or meditation or spontaneous, like I've had awakening moments that I didn't do anything to cause them, and so I couldn't explain them. And what I learned from that was that when people have these experiences and they try to explain them, then they're just, gonna get weird, because there's a whole world of weird shit. And if you take the weird shit out of it, you just go, well, what happens? What happens is when you look at those words like I'm not good enough, those become part of the structure of identity. Literally a structure in psychology that I could explain to someone, that I could document academically, that there's a psychology to the human experience, to the personality, to the self as someone knows themselves, is a structure, and a structure that could be addressed because the mind maintains it willingly. That it's not burned into their cells, that there's no physiology to trauma, there's no damage to the tissues per se. If you're exposed to the physiology of stress all the time, well, that can have neurological effects, sure. But as far as someone's trauma goes, the trauma doesn't create any actual physical damage. It's just memories that are imbued with feeling that become fear. It's sort of like getting stung by a bee. If you get stung by a bee, you're going to have a fear of bees. Get bit by a snake. Okay. If a white kid gets jumped by a bunch of black kids, well, he might have a phobia of black people, because that's just the way psychology works. And so, when we view people as broken, traumatized, it's just because we don't have the answers. So when we're conclusive about the brokenness of people to the point of indoctrinating them with stigma and definitions, we're just cementing their legacy. That they get comforted by getting the answers to their internal monologues, but it doesn't free them. That it could provide emotional satisfaction to know that you could quiet your mind by having the answer. That when you think what's wrong with me, you could always go, oh, well, I'm bipolar. Oh, well, I got ADHD. Sort of let yourself off the hook. So the truth of the matter is the patterns of behavior that could be described in psychology are a direct result of the repetitive, recurring interpreted reality. That the overlay, the seamless integration between the internal experiential world that is influenced by the world of meaning and the world of words and terms is a projection onto reality. The greatest tool of our mind was nearly a psychic ability to create a way to engage reality within the internal imagination, a simulated universe. And when we created words and we first started describing ourselves, that's when we started to disempower ourselves, and we put ourselves on a collision course with a dark destiny, a fear-based, social outcome of ignorance, where we would be afraid of ourselves, afraid of life, that would drive us to make nuclear weapons and guns and police ourselves, protect ourselves, security. And you notice that it's continuing to escalate. As we continue to make the world more dangerous, we continue to increase fear. The fear increases the uncertainty and the distrust. The distrust causes a need for understanding. A need for understanding causes the attachment to beliefs, because people in a world in which they can't understand without discernment need to turn to the powers that be. They need to believe in change. They need to believe in a political campaign. They need to believe in a God that will protect them and intervene at the right moment. They need to believe in a second coming. They need to believe in a rapture. They need to believe in heaven to deal with the resignation of an unjust world where they can never get what they want. They can never truly find love or be happy. They need to believe in something supernatural because they can't find their way through their stuckness. And so all of these human needs come from the same locus, the same fear, the same lack of discernment, the same disability, the same bifurcation from a domain of experience that would enable for the spontaneous generation of knowledge and understanding that exists as alive and real, where the mind of a person is an infinite compass, an infinite tool of detached creationism, where the more present you are and the less significant you are, the more real your thoughts become, the more untainted they become, the more accurate they become, and the more powerful they become, the more true they become. And that's it. In a world where everyone's trying to defend their truth, we have a world that fails to see the universal truth. And they can't come to the table because they're too busy believing that they're right. And they're only believing they're right because they're afraid, because they don't know the world at all. They don't understand it. They don't understand themselves. And so they fight to understand themselves, clinging to definitions, clinging to terminologies, clinging to stigmas, clinging to entitled righteousness, clinging with fear, vitriol, defiance, anger, to conspiracies or religious dogmas, thinking that fighting for themselves and preservation of themselves and the groups they subscribe to makes a difference. And while they do that, the people that are aware are the ones that are reaping the rewards. That there are people that understand this stuff and they use it. They use it against you. That you're predictable. That they know how people respond to certain messages. They know what people will do if we tell them this. They know what people will do if we present them with this. They know that people will never stop trying to fix themselves, never cling to their entitlement to prosperity, never cling to a need to differentiate themselves and be self-important, never give up on themselves, never stop trying to fix, never stop trying to improve, never stop trying to demonstrate. And so they made a system, and the system feeds it because it's good for the system. Yeah, it's really good to have everybody think they're broken. I mean, how easy is it to control people that can't think? How easy is it to control people that think that they know what's going on? And then they attach to alternate ideas that, they have no idea. None. Not even the people that are on the right side of history. Not even the people that know government. Not even the people, they don't know all the way down to the truth about what makes somebody the way that they are. Because if you knew yourself, then you would know everyone else. Like if you truly understood yourself, then you would not differentiate yourself in any way. That you would never have a need to be more or less than someone else. And you would never try to invalidate anybody. Because why would you need to do that? Because if you just listened to them, felt them, then you would understand them, and then you would know how to navigate the relationship. You would just be dealing with what's so about people, and you'd have freedom. And that their bad behaviors and their ignorance wouldn't bother you. It's their problem. Their mind's stuck, not yours. Why do you need to worry about it? Okay, so you got someone that's a narcissist. Well, then what are you doing? Why would you hold on to them? It's like, you know what you know, and move on with your life. You can't. Oh, you need closure. You need him to tell you you're good enough after all. You need him to release you from your bondage. You need them to break your trauma bond for you because you're attached, because they left you feeling not good enough. The same feeling you had as a child that has nothing to do with the narcissist, but merely explains why you had no discernment to begin with and why you punish yourself after. Interesting. We live in a world where the guilty roam free and the innocent are guilty. And nobody's like, why is it just this way? Why is it that way? Well, that's why. It's because if somebody thinks they're broken and not good enough, they don't have discernment. They could be told they're broken and they try to fix themselves. They could be told it's their fault. And they believe it because they already know it's true. Because they suspected it. Because they're like, oh, he cheated. It must be me. And I'm talking to a woman who just feels like she's with a narcissist. She's about to get married and he cheats on her. And she's like, well, it's just because I don't meet his sexual needs. And I'm like, what are sexual needs? When did somebody have sexual needs? The only people that have sexual needs are fetuses. They need to exist. So somebody had to have sex. And then that's about as far as the need goes. I mean, when did your lust become a need suddenly? A mandatory requirement of your ability to cope with life. And you're going to listen to that. You actually think that that's true. And we believe things like that. Like you literally sit with somebody and they start talking to you, well, you got to meet your husband's needs and you got to meet his needs. And it's like, what? Needs? The fuck did we get needs? Like animals and needs? You ever see a bear go, you're not meeting my needs? Well, it's because my daddy bear was mean. So I need you to make up for it. No. Animals need to eat, they need to piss, shit, reproduce, breathe, get water, and not get eaten alive. Other than that, then they're just chilling, needs. What the animals need is us to leave them alone, Science is trying to get pandas to breed in a cage, It's a breakthrough. With the budget of $100 million, we were able to get the panda to successfully copulate. Or we had to actually use the test tube, and we're going to save the pandas one test tube at a time by inbreeding them in a laboratory. Right. So that's, those are just some of my thoughts. All right. So what does it all mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's just what occurs to be the case. And I'm just interested in describing the experiences that were a party to some of these religious and philosophical teachings that are real experiences that many people have experienced for themselves, seem to have eluded the world of psychology, but yet are a viable modality for the rapid termination of a bunch of things that are afflicting people, unnecessarily afflicting people. And so, we don't need a bunch of people running around the world thinking they're broken. I mean, how the hell are we supposed to get shit done? What people will do, is pretty inhuman in the crusade of self-significance. So, that's what we're talking about, right? Well, I didn't say Buddhism was in the Bible. I'm just talking about similarities. See, the point is this. Let me talk about Buddhism, right? So, Buddhism, as a practice, is something that causes an experiential transformation, an enlightenment. Okay? That's all. Now, whatever the beliefs are, fine, take that, set it aside. But the truth of the matter is that people do experience these things. I know because I've experienced it through different modalities, whether it was transformational coursework by Landmark Education or in my early 20s or 26 years old. I had a spontaneous experience that I couldn't really explain why it happened. It just did happen. That was it. So, that had me really curious because I didn't know why it happened or how it happened, but it made me interested in, does this happen to other people, or is this maybe what they're talking about? Like, is this what enlightenment feels like? Because I experienced, sort of like not existing. And I don't mean like I didn't exist. It's just more that without the voice in my head, there wasn't any added meaning to what was happening around me. I was free. Like I could go this way, I could go that way. So I was just choosing whatever, and it was like a very, very different way of seeing the world. I wasn't ready for the experience because I didn't have any understanding of other people. And so, eventually just kind of come back to my ordinary life and always remember with fondness that thing, but I just kind of buried it in the past, chalked it up to being crazy or whatever. It didn't matter. I just avoided discussing it because it only made me sad that I wasn't there anymore because life was a lot better. But at least let me know that there was something, even beyond what I'd experienced before. But, that experience was real. And, the Buddhist experience, I would assert, is real. But they're the same experience. However, they have their methods to getting there, right? And what I would say about the methods is real simple. I would call them archaic. I would say it's impractical that we can't integrate Buddhism because we're not going to shave our heads. We're not going to meditate for 20 years and do all these different, whatever they do, I'm not even sure. But I equate that to this. I would say if I was a doctor and somebody told me that they gave me a medicine and they said, here, I got this in South America. There's a tribe and there's a witch doctor. And he says a bunch of prayers and he gets a special leaf and he grinds it into a powder and he puts it in this vase and he calls that the earth god. And then he says, this is the tree god and that this is the sun god. And then we're going to combine the gods and they're going to give us a cure for arthritis. And they don't know it's arthritis, but whatever. And it works. And it takes 6 months and he makes this medicine, this magical medicine, right? Well, I could say it's magic, or I could give it to my doctor buddy and say, hey, can you give me a pharmacological analysis? Somehow it's impacting diarthroidal joints. I want to know if it's receptor mediated. I want to know if it has some kind of anti-inflammatory property. I want to know if it might engage the immune system by preventing the, inappropriate immune reactions that might cause the destruction of articular cartilage. And so my doctor buddy would take that preparation and he would locate the molecules that are active. And then he would be able to describe them to me, give me the chemical formula for the active ingredient. And then he would also invent the synthesis of it. So he could create the biochemical processes that would enable him in a laboratory setting to synthesize the same molecules. And I would say, great, we're going to go to market next year. It's got to start clinical trials. And then I would know what it was. And then I could create it. And so looking at, say, Buddhism and saying, whatever they believe they're doing, it's great, fine. But the process takes 20 years. But anything that you do dealing with the mind is dealing with the same mind that we're talking about. And if we could describe the mind in the words and language of psychology and ontology, and there's been a lot of advancement with respect to the understanding of the mind, just like there is advancement with respect to the understanding of chemistry, then I can take something that was mystical and transform it into something psychological and be dealing with the same something. That I could look at the human mind through the lens of anatomy, through the lens of physiology and biochemistry, and I could look at it through the lens of psychology, ontology, and then I could look at what people thought about it when they described the experience of being a person as a spiritual experience. But the challenge is that people have all of these different views that they use to describe the same phenomenon through different lenses. And with all these different teachings, creating conundrums, conflations, or creating boundaries as well as archaic, dogma that would prevent a more common ground understanding of the single thing, and then you have problems because people's attachments to what's true and what to believe prevents them from exploring other things. Like if I was a psychologist, I might deny that that's a valid experience and try to explain it as dissociative or explain it as some other thing from humming and meditating that they're able to, induce the effect of DMT like effects by, depleting their baby, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, that's not what happens. All that happens is that the little voice in their mind shuts up. But they don't understand the architecture of it. They don't understand the psychological stages of development. They don't understand when the child actually creates a personality. So those are things that I've discovered and learned. Yeah. So a lot of the things that I talk about are because of an expansive working model of the development of the human mind through various periods of time that can allow me to speculate about how would you get a narcissist understanding what I know about the mind. How would that person develop? What actually differentiates a borderline? How could I understand that? And so rather than going with teachings that tell me that that person is irretrievably damaged, why would I do that? Because I can understand more than any of those people. You know why I say that is because what are they studying? They're studying someone else's thoughts. Oh, you studied Freudian psychology, did you? Or you studied Jungian for psychology? If I studied Freudian psychology, I would do it to understand Freud's mind, not just agree that he's right. I would envision his imagination within mine. I would take his whole world and put it in mine, and I would break it down. And then I would know him as an architect of understanding. And then I could actually study what he studied and say, what were his teachers? And then I would look at that, and I would see the distinctions. I would see what he thought. I would see what he wrote. I would see why he wrote it. And then I would do that for all of them. And that would just give me a world in which I could at least understand those people. It would give me profound insight about them. But for me, the domain of learning is not one of memorizing. When I go to school, I'm going to sit down with the doctors of the school and I'm going to say, I want you guys to just do a panel and interview me and just see what you think I understand. Because when you ask me questions, I generate answers. When people ask me questions on a live stream, I literally create the knowledge based on what I have already in my database of understanding, and I do it without thinking. The words come out, and it's like I'm building the architecture of something rapidly. And it's no right or wrong. And if I correct people, I'm only correcting them in relationship to what I understand because you're asking me what I understand, and I'm not here asking what you understand. So if I'm sharing what I understand, I'm going to correct you into my world of understanding only because that's what I'm sharing. I'm not here to create a debate, and I'm not here to understand what people think per se. The only thing that I get from what people understand is I understand them. And so what they think and understand just tells me, what is going on within their mind. When people ask me questions, I can see who's asking the question. I look at what's under the question. Like I will see this person thinks that they're not good enough, so they're asking this question. And so I will come back to a more relevant question. Why do you want to know that? Is it wrong to know that? No, it's not wrong. It's just irrelevant to you. That you're ruminating on a belief of yourself that is stimulating questions of irrelevance. That the questions that come from the mind of rumination are there to cement the rumination, are there to satiate the need for certainty. And the certainty is the certainty of self, the very certainty of self that keeps a person imperiled. Because everything you think you know about yourself is exactly why you're not present. Because you've differentiated yourself to such a degree that you've distinguished yourself from the world. Being present within the world is when you become undistinct from the world, when you merely just become an experience of the world, where what you're seeing is just consciousness viewing the world. And you're not in the way anymore, because you are just a psychological phantom. You are literally just a bunch of phrases, a bunch of fears, a bunch of past memories, a bunch of do's and don'ts, can'ts, shoulds, and shouldn'ts, a bunch of beliefs that are arbitrary in nature, satiating fears of your own existence. You're so afraid of the future that you need to be able to indoctrinate yourself into a model of reality that will tell you exactly what's going to happen before you even wake up in the morning. And the moment somebody talks, you're already rejecting and negating it because it doesn't align with what you want to believe to be true, because your beliefs are only emotional, particularly in a world that you do not understand. And you don't understand it because you can't, because you don't know how to think. And there's a big difference between understanding things and memorizing things and regurgitating the thoughts of people that had a better level of understanding than you only because they know how to use their mind. And it has nothing to do with intelligence, because the way in which we see intelligence is merely through the execution of the limitations of somebody while you're sitting there anxiously doing your IQ test, no access to the generative collective of your infinite expanse of intelligence that would literally spontaneously generate answers and pattern recognize without any effort, and do so rapidly that you wouldn't even feel like you're the author of the words coming out of your mouth as sentences string together and you just watch it happen. You have no idea the power of the mind. None. Or you can't explain your own words anymore. And you don't have to. You just get out of the way. So, it's a really interesting thing. It's an interesting thing because you can disappear in a string of consciousness. Like, you could just be sharing and talking and watching yourself, and you'll be so outside of yourself that you won't even have an experience of yourself. Meaning, I've had it where I'll be live streaming and I'll get interrupted by having to answer a question about my feelings. Someone will go, "How are you feeling though? Are you happy or what's going on?" And I won't know. I'm too busy feeling the world. Like, I don't know. Like, am I happy? I don't know. Like, I would have to, like, it's almost like a snail that's head is out and it has to go, like, I feel myself actually have to go back inside. Like, it's weird. But you see, the thing about it is when you're present like that, you have so much more power in the moment. Like, there is no alternate things going on. Like, you don't have your fear of tomorrow. You don't have like something in the past. You don't have like any other alternate processes running simultaneously. And so it's almost like all your brain is like outside. It's just like you're seeing everything, like you're about to hit the game winner, game 7, like you just see things. And things look like easy. If you want to introduce yourself to someone, you just say hello. You don't think about it. You just kind of go about it. And does that mean I don't get triggered? Does that mean that I'm not a regular guy? It doesn't mean any of that. Like, I just go later and, sit down and watch the Colorado game and, whatever. Haven't had a beer since April, but, don't feel like I want to. But this is what happened to me. I mean, that's all it is like, what happened to me was, I had been doing this kind of thing my whole life since my 20s, using my mind to like ongoingly free myself and ups and downs and trying to, figure shit out. But when I saw a narcissist for the first time, I didn't know what they were, but what I saw in my girlfriend at the time, it was startling and jarring, gave me goosebumps because I saw something that was an unknown entity to me, an alien, like an alien to my world, meaning she went from someone I knew since I was 16 to something I had no language for, something I couldn't describe, something I didn't understand and thought I did. And the seeing of that broke my cognitive dissonance permanently. Broke it, meaning like it took me out of the fog. It was like, it was just like, it was like thorough to the like, and so the emotions that I felt after weren't trauma bond emotions. They were just like this existential crisis of having to confront being 43 years old, knowing that I've been living in a state of self-induced deception where I could see how I did it. I could see how I did it. Like I could literally, in my imagination, see myself in my past, in all moments of my past, that any moment in my past I can revisit right now and understand it in a totally new way because I'm not looking through the lens of a person that thinks they're broken, afraid to see, that I've failed and I don't want to, why do we want to talk about the past? No, I love it. Like, it's the best thing. It's like the best thing that I could do is look at myself because that's all I do is I reality test terminologies that I absorb and I don't memorize them. They just assimilate and it's already there. Like I don't have to, okay, what's a narcissist? Okay, what's a trauma bond? Okay, isn't the trauma bond this? And so I'm not just repeating words like a parrot. I take that term and I throw it into my mind and I start looking at things and to see correlations between the explanations and descriptions and the behaviors and the observations because you see what happens is that the lens of your mind, when you are being the way you're being, meaning like you think you're broken, not good enough, that being only needs a fraction of your total awareness. In fact, it's omitting, like your mind is seeing everything. You have eyes and ears. All that data is coming in, it's being processed. Unbeknownst to you, you only get whatever channel you're watching. You're watching People Pleaser 101. Today, we're going to be dealing with the cheating ex-girlfriend. Welcome. And you're just the audience. And so you're watching your life through people-pleasing programming. And so you're not aware of all the other things happening. Like you're not seeing the betrayals. You're not seeing it. You'll get hints of it. You'll have intuitions. You'll have little like nuanced like understandings and you'll dismiss them. And so that's what I got to see was that I could see reality and I would cause myself to be confused so that I wouldn't have to act on it right away. Meaning like I see something that makes me suspicious. I think I know what's going on, like intuitively, just understanding what's going on. And it puts all this together, like my mind reality is in reality. And then the confusion sets. The confusion stops my mind. It stops the proliferation of recognition that would happen automatically. So it stops it. It paralyzes it. And now I'm confused. Like, I don't know what's going on. Let me ask her. So, did you sleep here last night? And then let her explain it to me. Now, her lie correlates with what I want because I have an idealized image of her in my mind that I'm attached to. So I want her to be good. She's going to lie. The future that I'm living into includes her, and I feel like I need her. And the pain of reality is very, very bad. And so I make a decision. I go, oh, I'll believe her. And I'll tell myself, just being insecure. And then I dismiss reality. And I had to experience the impact of that, the impact over my whole life, that I went through all of my memories, 3 days. Like when you talk about a revelation, my whole internal reality structure is being reframed. right before my eyes and so fast. And then now what I'll do is I'll be thinking, like if someone asks me a question, my mind can train on a situation that's exactly like that. And then when I put myself in my mind, I will be answering the question and that will be happening. And it happens so fast that it's as if within the expanse of my mind, the experience is one of timelessness, meaning that I experience things as if they're happening in seconds, like, yet that experience within my mind will be a millisecond, but my mind will get it as if I was there. And I can have multiples of those happening and simultaneously. Like, and I actually train people on that. Like I show people, your mind is so big that it can put you in all these moments at one time. That it'll connect the dots. That you have your mind fixated and trained on one moment or your life or your problems that you ruminate on, your visual mind that's this expanse of possibility. You literally have your Google Earth, your Google universe. The Google Earth, it's like if you had Google Earth on your phone and you just zoomed it to your ex-boyfriend's house and you just look at it all day and then you just sit there thinking about it. And you could have literally Googled yourself to Hawaii. Like your mind is like a Google Maps that will take you anywhere. Because it could create from nothing. It could literally invent every step by step on how to do anything you want for yourself in your life is available just by envisioning it in your imagination and following the steps. And you can't do that because you think you're broken. Because the boundaries of your imagination are contained within the identity of a being that you created as a child. When you want to talk about prayers being answered, that would be the prayers. The prayers would be engaging your conscious mind. Like, I want to do this. And then it's just like, you just see it. Oh, your prayer got answered. Oh, there it is. I'm going to do that. I'm going to call the university and just set up this. How am I going to make a difference? Oh, okay, this is how I'm going to make a difference. Oh, what am I going to do about that? Oh, this is how I'm going to do that. Oh, what do you do about this? That's how you do that. Oh, okay, how you do this? Do that. Hey, Nate, what do you think of this? Well, this is what I see. Literally, like your mind could be like Chat GPT quick, bam. It could be visual, bam. Like, I tried to tell the space engineers, I hired aerospace engineers, and when I discovered I was creative, I discovered it because I didn't know. Why didn't I know I was creative? Because my mind was locked. How could you be creative when every time you create an idea, you say, I'm not good enough? Stop it. You think of rejection. You think of what's wrong with you. Like, you can't use your mind. You think that is your mind? You think you're literally acting like your mind is broken because you are stopping it from working. You're doing that to yourself. You don't know how you're doing it, but the words and the phrases that created the boundaries of your mind literally have fear that is preventing you. It's like you raised your hand in class and you were wrong, and so you're never going to raise your hand again. You thought of something and you shared it with your dad and he told you you're an idiot. And so now you think you're stupid. And so you're not going to do that again. And so you have been systematically shut down from being able to use your mind for your own problem solving and the generation of new ideas, thoughts, knowledge pathways to where you need help. I don't know what to pick for a career. How do I do this? How do I fill out this paperwork? How do I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know what do I do about my boyfriend? He cheated on me and he keeps calling. I don't know how to stop talking to him. You don't know how to stop talking to him. That's the extent of your mind. In a world where people are blasting off into outer space, you have the same amount of capacity. And yet you think you're stupid. You think you're not good enough because you're a child. You see, the framework of your reality is built by a child, meaning that why you're so afraid, why you're so small, why you feel abandoned, why you feel not good enough, why you feel unlovable is because that's what you felt at 4, 5, 6 years old. And the parent was so big. And so this contextual phenomenon called I'm not good enough takes you and makes you infantile and weak. and small and suffocated, reactive. And then you blame other people for your feelings of powerlessness, your suffocations, your mental afflictions, all your triggers and reactions that are locked and loaded in your ear. Like you listen and you see, and all you do is listen to yourself, tell yourself what they meant by this and what they mean by this, because I want to understand and wrap my mind around it. And you want to be in control because the controlling of incoming information is how you reconstitute it to prevent yourself from feeling inferior, to prevent yourself from feeling not good enough, to try to minimize someone else because you're envious or threatened or jealous, or you try to literally, disprove them or devalue them or invalidate them so that their words don't have as much meaning or significance to you. You try to deny the truth that they're telling you. You argue, you fight, you defend, you protect, you avoid domination, you dominate, you invalidate, you avoid invalidation, that you literally do not listen to anything. Because listening is not understanding. Listening is listening. Listening would have you automatically get them. You just understand yourself with respect to what you think about them, and you think that that's who they are, that you think you know that person. All you know is whatever character you made them into, and now you're trying to relate to other people this way, wondering why it's so difficult, why you're so alone, why you feel so lonesome in your life, because you have no discernment, because you cannot tell a predator from a prince. You cannot tell a wolf from a wolf in sheep's clothing, to a sheep, to a shepherd, to a prophet, to anything, because you have no discernment, because you're just afraid of life. You're afraid of yourself getting hurt. You're afraid of yourself being taken advantage of. You're afraid of yourself being used. You're afraid of yourself being unloved. You're afraid of yourself being unlovable. You're afraid of yourself being unworthy. You're afraid of yourself being broken. You're afraid of yourself being not good enough. And then you want to hide all of that and say you're fine. And hashtag blessed. And everybody else is doing that. And because they're fundamentally inauthentic doing that, then they point at other people. They're insecure and they're insecure because they're jealous of me and my new car. And it makes me feel good because fuck my haters. You know who your hater is? You. Yeah, if you didn't feel certain things, then you wouldn't worry about haters and they wouldn't bother you. Yeah. Yeah. The words and thoughts of other people have no power or meaning to you if you don't actually believe them. And that's it. My thoughts on people who follow others' opinions? Well, that's you. Because how many of your thoughts are your own? Like, what is it that you know that you learned on your own without somebody telling it or teaching you? So, for the most part, the majority of anybody I've ever talked to in my lifetime, I've not met very many people in my entire world experience, including anybody online, that I could say authors their own thoughts. That if they think knowing something is like they have to learn it and then they could talk about it. Because they couldn't just think about it right now. Yeah, like you don't have the ability to think, and that's why you don't actually have conversations with people. Conversations are you parroting bullshit, them parroting bullshit, and two people parroting other people, and then who's right and who's wrong and why and where did you get that information? Where's your information? Where's your research? And where's this and where's that? But then not being able to take what it is that you think you know and expound and add. You can't contribute to it. You can only acquire more of it because you're disabled from thinking, because you don't even want to be responsible for the extraordinary power of creating your own understanding of things. And so I don't have opinions. I don't need an opinion. Why would I be attached to an opinion? I would be attached to flexibility. I would be attached to nothing. So no attachment, just the capacity to create what occurs to be true to me without needing it to be true. It just is the way it occurs. And so if you're asking me for what I think, then there's nothing to argue about. Why would you argue with me about what I thought? Didn't you just want to know what I thought? Well, then why would you ask if you want to argue? Like, see, I want to know what you think, and then you can know what I thought, and we could just look at that together. Find common ground. Maybe there's something you thought that I'm like, wow, that just planted a seed. Let me say blah, 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 blah. Or have you thought about it this way, where you're so attached to being right that you're incapable of learning? And so you share with me your ideas without giving me the permission to expand upon them, correct them, adjust them, alter them, as somebody that could do that on the fly and on the spot. Because that would be too threatening. That would start to disrupt your flimsy grip on whatever reality you're clinging to. So people generally don't think, and they don't know that they don't think. They don't even know that they don't know, that they don't even know what thinking is. They think that thinking is a little voice just rambling in vicious circles of nonsense and then regurgitating factoids. That people think thinking is recalling and what they memorized. It's not thinking. There's no thinking involved. Trying to photograph memory documents, like sitting here studying this to force these letters and these phrases to carbon copy so that later I could sit down. Is it A, B, C, D, E? None of the above. Okay, I got it 80%. I hate written tests, man. So people that say they hate written tests, why? Because they don't know shit, because they don't understand it. It makes them insecure. It has them confront, that they don't know what they're talking about. And so people talk about things they don't even understand. Everybody's got an opinion, and they're entitled to their opinion. And then they just treat yours as an opinion without being able to even articulate that you understand something because they don't understand it enough to be able to validate someone that does. That they demonize people that understand things because they're too ignorant to understand that there are people that understand things that they don't understand. Because they don't understand that they don't understand, then they don't understand that there are people that understand. And then they could be told that that person's evil. Or they could be told that that person's brainwashed. And then they're the ones that are brainwashed because they don't even understand what brainwashed means. They don't even understand that everything that they think that they understand was created in a think tank. Like somebody's like, what do we want them to know? What do we want them to believe? What do we want them to understand so we could get them to vote for this person and to buy this? And so the advertisers pay for advertising to access these people, to associate those goods and services with this particular political affiliation or this entity. And they spend billions on it because they can indoctrinate you into a culture and believe that you're supposed to drive diesel trucks and you're an American, so you got to get online to buy your American flag and you got to fly it here. And here's your new T-shirt with the mugshot, and you can do this and do that. And buy this hat. Here's this, here's that. You can get the NFTs to celebrate your affiliation with this particular fascist movement of pure indoctrinated ignorance. And feel like you belong and you're superior, and what you're doing matters because you're going to help make it great again. You're going to protect America from the dark-skinned people that want to take your jobs, bring drugs, and steal your women. Ready, go. Okay, it's time to get angry, everybody. They stole the election. Just don't trust anything. It's fake news. Just trust my Twitter account. Fake news, fake news, fake news. Just literally program you to be a brainwashed robot. Fake, hold up with the fake news, hold up with the fake news, hold up with the fake news. You're brainwashed, you're brainwashed, you're brainwashed, you're brainwashed. I'm not brainwashed. We just all agree on exactly the same things that we saw on TV together. Yeah. My life is the embodiment of a political slogan. And I've literally become a volunteer fighting force that's ready to go to civil war now because the criminal justice system has discovered that my candidate is a complete fraud. Fake news. It's a witch hunt. Mike Pence didn't do his job, man. We should string him up for treason because we're proud. We're Americans. So you get people to do anything you want because you control reality because they don't have the ability to tell the difference. So, I mean, if they don't know, what do they know? They have no idea. They can't tell that they don't know. Like, people that can talk about viruses and cannot explain a cigarette lighter in a world of supercomputers and space travel. We got people that can't explain the most basic phenomenon of life, yet they have, like, they think that the angrier they are about something they believe and the louder they yell, the more right they become. And it's no different for people on the other side of the aisle. They're just as ignorant to me because they're too ignorant to recognize that they're fighting with people that have no power and aren't part of the problem. Like, why are you yelling at them? What about the 200 million people that didn't vote and let that guy get elected? Why don't you be dealing with those people? Because that would be more effective. More effective would be, instead of fighting, mobilizing and just handling business and just let them yell at each other and do what they want. Let them do what they want. They could chant about walls. They can do whatever. They could say whatever they want. You've got enough people that you could get whatever legislation you want passed if you just had your head out of your fucking ass because you're part of the problem. When people witness you arguing with ignorance, they become hopeless. And so you are creating victimhood, resignation, and you are blaming your own powerlessness on other people that are just as indoctrinated. And whether you're on the right side of history and you believe things because your information is better, sure. Yes. Yes. Yes, okay, yes. So you have a better grip on reality, but you're out of touch with reality because your problem solving solutions are the same as theirs. That you're doing the same thing they're doing, you just happen to believe things that are more grounded in reality and less humane or more humane, meaning, okay, so you don't want to strip the rights from everybody. You believe in equality. Okay, you believe women should have autonomy with their body. You believe that we are all created equal. Okay, those are all things I align with. What I don't align with is screaming and yelling on TikTok. I just don't agree that you're doing anything that matters just by voicing the disapproval and dismay of people that are mesmerized by the ignorance of the other people. Because I look at that as equally ignorant, unfortunately. I just look at it like that's not the battleground of our peace and prosperity. That it's you, it's your mind. It's like you not being resigned, you finding where you can make a difference. That there are many people that want to make a difference. There's many people that want to see a world work, but they're just unable to make their world work. They're not even able to make their communication work. They're not able to do those things. And because of their own lack of discernment and capacity, they're misled about what the nature of the problem is. That it's a bigger systemic issue, but the system isn't the problem. The people that are already self-indoctrinating as children are the issue because we're just being spun through a system that caters to that and keeps us disaligned with the truth that we could actually save ourselves in a way. That we don't need to change the structure of our government. That would be a mistake because it doesn't matter. Like communism, capitalism, socialism, I don't give a shit what it is. What religion doesn't matter to me either. The being of human beings is what matters. And if you're going to put malignant narcissists and sociopaths and covert narcissists, liars, con people, people emboldened to corporate entities that are just non-interested in the values and not interested in the welfare of people in general, those are the people that are representatives in government. I don't care what government you're talking about. It doesn't matter. Like you could give me a football team, a basketball team, a hockey team, and you could give me a coach, and that coach could be a coach for any of those teams. But you see, it's the coach that I'm worried about, not the game. You know, that the ideologies or the rationales, the hopes, the dreams of the different forms of social structures are all created, you know, in some image of utopia or some idealized version of what could be like for people. None of that matters when people are indoctrinated into ignorance and are going to suffer no matter what. Like your suffering is not because of the government. Your suffering is not because of your parents. Your suffering is not because of anybody other than yourself. And it's not to guilt you. It's not to shame you. It's to say there is no world where you're happy. There's no world where you're happy. The reason the world is miserable is because everybody's like you. Because everybody has in their mind that they're broken, that they're not good enough, and something's wrong with them, and they are trying to fix themselves by fixing the world. That they are blaming the world for these feelings that are triggered by outside circumstance. And those same people are the ones in government, the same people that are in corporations. And so whether they're narcissists, non-narcissists, there's those implications. Then the next level is the general reality around the life of individual people being totally contaminated by these internal experiences which are externalized. That if you're going to walk the earth listening for, am I good enough or am I not good enough? Am I healed? Am I broken? Is there something wrong with me or not? Well, you're not going to be happy no matter what happens because you can't. You require things to be happy. You require things to work. You require, freedom from your job, and you require a perfect partner, and you require a certain level of material. You require things. If you can be happy with no requirements, then you can go out and do something with your life. Then you can go and get the things you enjoy, but you'll enjoy them in a more pure way because they don't have to have any meaning to you. They could just be things that you like. I like cars. I like the acceleration. I just enjoy it. So I have fun doing it. I like giving it to other people. I've always enjoyed that. Does it mean anything? No. Is it other than that? I mean, it's just what I thought I would do just because I liked it. Fortunately, being a creative person that likes things and thinking that I could get other people involved and they would believe in what I was trying to accomplish was a mistake. They don't give a shit about me. They never did, never have, never will. And that's not my fault. And in many ways, it isn't theirs. That they're imperiled, that they're beyond salvation. At least, nothing I can do about it. That there was no way for me to make my life work with these people. There was no way. There wasn't anything I could do that would have saved my business from these types of people, given the way I saw it, that these people have always showed up. That being somebody that has no discernment, that has all this light and love and wants to do all these wonderful things, is going to always imperil me. It's always going to result in my catastrophic failure. And I've proven that to myself time and time again, that I was doomed. And even if I were to create the success, then I would have to exhaust myself maintaining it. So thinking I would turn the corner and that all of a sudden I have everything I wanted working, now I've got to keep it working. And the same triggered states that I used to get there, the same ones that I used to keep myself there. And now it's a bigger life demanding more of me, when I thought all along that if I were to get there, it'd make my life easier. It never was. So there is a reason why the teachings of Buddha and Jesus would be a life without material attachment. It wasn't because material was immoral. It wasn't because it was wrong. It was because it was ordinary, because it was a thirst for self-significance and fixing yourself. That I've had to learn that even painfully recently, where I was split between my TikTok self and this guy that was hiding and in pain in my own life, where I'm trying to figure out, like, how am I going to save it all? How am I going to make it all work? How am I going to fulfill this new charter, this new purpose of making a difference for people. I see that's who I am. I know that's what I'm supposed to do without a question. I created that. I said that. That's what I gave my word to. That's what I'm here to do. I said so. That's what I'm doing. The same mind that said I'm broken is the same one that said I make a difference. And now I get to see it as a miracle of my existence, that I get to look at it. And it's so ordinary that I have people talking to me like I'm a great guy, knowing that they have no idea what happened to me to get me there. That I just show up like a guy that's talking. And I think that's really amazing, that I have a life that is unrecognizable and I get to be somebody that never existed before. That in some ways, my experience is that I inherited a life of somebody. And all his memories, and I'm him, and he's me, but it's like walking into this business like, what was he doing? Why would he do this to himself? Why would I do this? Why would I do this? This is nuts. Why would I imperil myself with all this work and all this frustration and talking to people? Oh, I gotta get this done and get that done, and being dogged and dominated and shit on, and having people guilt tripping me and being fucking dragged and used and all this so that I could just make it across the finish line thinking, when I hold up my supercharger in front of humanity, I've arrived. I'm a creative man that can make it happen, see? No, I'm going to get my book done, and then I'll come back. My life's going to be a celebration. I'll have the anti-narc party bus ready to go to Vegas to spread the love. But you see, a lot of these things we understand, like you say, feed the ego, starve the soul. You see, but what I'm telling you is that I'm saying that the world of sin was the after, like when you're born again, then you get that. But you're not just born again because you accepted Jesus. That wasn't what it was. It wasn't because you got baptized. There was something that would happen to the people. That the teachings in their pure essence were transformational learnings. That you would come to understand the God that he was talking about. Because when he talked like I talk. And what I mean by that is that's why I came to understand him. And why did I say that? Why did I say that? It's because I no longer experienced authorship of the words. Why would I experience authorship? Because they were not created in servitude of my identity anymore, that they're not filtered, that I'm not concerned with or considering them anymore, that I'm watching them happen. And so in a sense, there's almost like a lack of self-significance around the things that I understand or say, like a lack of attachment. And so there's something about that I think is worth noting. And the world of sin would change that. Like an example would be if I'm coaching someone and they're a woman, right? Then I'm talking to them like I'm talking to myself. It has no bearing on my relationship, none. It has nothing. I don't even create them as a woman or a man. Like it's literally like I'm just being there with them. And the focus is on what makes a difference, okay? But if lust entered my chat, if suddenly my needs or wants started modifying my words, like I started directing a woman towards some outcome, then I lose myself because I'm no longer in the state of creation. I've lose the freedom because I don't have freedom. Once I have needs, wants, once it's about me being wanted, lovable, once all that, I have lost the gift of discernment. I've lost the power to create. I've lost everything. Like the very moment that I want to celebrate me is the very moment that Nate is back and basking in being good enough again. And I just created the indoctrination and attachment to being good enough. Now I'm going to be chasing accolades. Now I'm going to be wanting to be recognized intellectually. Now I'm going to be want to go on tour and demand the red carpet treatment. Now I want to be special. Now I want to differentiate myself from this guy and that guy. Now I want to go and showcase my talents and abilities and get in a debate environment where I can just dominate somebody. But that wouldn't make any difference for anybody because all it would left people with is look at how awesome this guy is. What if that doesn't make any difference for me? That doesn't make any difference at all. It doesn't make any difference for them. Like what I would rather have people think is like, what would it be like if I had freedom? What if what he's saying about what happened to him isn't special? What if he's not chosen? What if he's not lucky? What if there is a methodology to that? What if there's a way for people to truly experience a level of freedom that is they're unaware of, that they can barely imagine it? Like, what if that was true? What if my memories could work like his memories, meaning I could put myself in any memory in my life and then I could see things that would imbue me with instant wisdom, instant understanding, and that the mind is so rapid and powerful that I could create new models of understanding in such a rapid time that people with PhDs would start talking to me like I know a lot about something when I have no certifications or training. And I would be violating the ethics of a world that says somebody with no expertise is unsafe to talk about these things. Well, but see, the truth of the matter is that this experience really isn't about me. It's just about what can happen to someone. Because if I look at a life that I'm 44 years old and all the different bad things that's happened, all the thoughts and all the things that I had afflicting me, and to kind of think that I'm free from that, that's a miracle. That's an unbelievable thing. But it's not because I was great, because who was I? What was I really? A people pleaser. Okay, well, it's the same as you. So the stuff that I talk about having overcome was the ordinariness of a normal dude. Okay, so maybe I had, different attributes or intelligence or whatever, but I suffered miserably, you know? I was failing and doing this and doing that, So there's nothing remarkable about me as a person, not at all. The only thing that's remarkable is the experience I'm having. But that experience isn't my own experience. It's a human experience. That the structures of my identity are what I use to teach people, that I'm only talking about my sameness. I'm only talking about what I struggled with, how I failed, what happened to me, the story of my life, with no shame, no embarrassment, no ridicule, no remorse, no regret. Why would I have any of that? Only if I believed that it meant that I was bad. Like if I thought I was broken because of what I went through, I'd only think because if I was not good enough, then that's why this happened. Well, when you lose all of that, then you gain your humanity. You gain your similarities. Instead of wanting to be a great individual, I just want people to understand their greatness. I want to tell people that, look, here's the secret, is you have no idea the power that you have. I know I didn't. I'm telling you that my mind works different now. That I am so fucking lucky. So lucky. I'm going to tell you, there are pivotal moments in my life. Like one of them when I was leaving my house to see my ex-girlfriend, where I made a conscious choice. I'm not going to get mad. I just want the truth. And I was uncomfortable, nervous because I didn't know what I was going to find. I knew I was stepping into the unknown for the first time with someone. I didn't know what I was going to see. And I was nervous. I didn't understand the implications of what I was experiencing. I just wanted the truth. And I was willing to go and find out, to be courageous. I wasn't there to attack. I wasn't there to defend. I wasn't there to be a victim. I just wanted to know what the hell was going on in my life. How could I be a year later from the greatest moments of like my life where I've got my shop here, my business, I've got my products, like I've done everything, I'm engineering, I've put a team together. I was set, man. I was set. And now my life is caving in, and I can't explain what is going on. And now the last person I had just lied to me. In the midst of all the things I'm going through, this woman told me she's going one place, turns her phone off later, then she calls me and she's coming from a different place, and those two stories couldn't reconcile. And I noticed, thank God, that the way she was talking to me was so enthusiastic and bubbly that it was unnatural. That somebody lying like this level and this callously and this ignorantly, like literally, it was so disrespectful because like I'm not that stupid where you could just loosely just make up a quick story to go disappear and cheat, and then you can make a new story up later with no even thought about it. And then you'd be happy. And I'm like, how could someone that just lied to me at this scale, this level, be so excited? It didn't make sense. And so that there was like that was part of becoming present. The truth will set you free. It was the first time where I was really going to get the truth, meaning that I created the possibility of truth in my head. Like, I'm going to get the truth. And that right there started to bring me out. I needed to be able to see the truth. Different from understanding. Different from fixating. I stopped thinking about it. See, I wasn't confused. I just didn't know. That's what it was. See, that was a difference. I wasn't running all these scenarios in my head. I didn't need to do that. I already knew something. See, I knew she lied, and I can already understand why she would do that. So cheating and lying were handled. I needed the truth of who she is. How could she do that? And not as a victim. How could you do this to me wasn't the question. How could you do that at all to anybody? How could you have somebody like me that is so committed or loves you, and then not the cheating, but how could you just be this way at all? How could anybody? And how could I not know that? How could I have coexisted with this person and I'm this late? How could I be this late? How could I know somebody for 40? I'm 43. I've known her since 16. How could I not know who she is at all? How could I not know? I needed the truth. There's something going on in my life. And this something had been going on my whole life. And this is I got to know what's going on. Like, I don't know what it is. And I'm not getting it from her. I'm getting it from me. I am going to be able to tell the truth. I'm going to see what's going on. I knew that. I knew that. And that's what I did. I went there, and I remember walking in the door. The first thing was the perfume. Just hit me, bam, like hitting a wall. I could feel it. And I saw her, and I noticed everything about her. From her layered hair that would look beautiful, to the makeup, to the necklace, to the fuzzy white sweater vest, the little V-neck, the really nice new designer jeans, and the beautiful, very well chosen black boots with the nice heel on them. To the glow permeating through her makeup, like she had done, a run on a treadmill. So I knew that. I could see all that. I could just see the truth looking at her. I didn't need to ask questions. Why would I ask her? I know the truth. She lies. I'm not talking to her about it. Wasn't going to confront her about it. Didn't need to. I had my discernment in the moment. I didn't know. I didn't think about that, but I already knew. Just looking at her, I knew everything. Now, I was curious about her. And so all I did was I said, wow, so it looks like you had quite an afternoon. So, you and your mom got together in your car and you drove to your uncle's to help him get the truck there because the brakes were bad. And then you must have come home, separated your vehicles so you can go to the other uncle's house so you could have the big barbecue. And here you are. Like, that's pretty complete. How was the traffic? Now, I knew that the freeway coming from one location was closed. It would have added 2 hours, and without the traffic, she couldn't have pulled that off. It was impossible. And what did I do? I just said that, and I just shut up, and I just watched her. And she did something. It was just, she started squirming. Like, she was like, oh, how I get when I drive, I just, like, she just blew it off as if, she sleepwalks while driving, kind of a thing, and didn't really consider the traffic. She doesn't remember the traffic. Oh. I didn't say anything, though. I just let her say that. And I was standing there, and I was looking at her like this. I was just taking it all in. And when she made eye contact with me, she made eye contact. She was squirming, she was just doing her thing, and then she looked at me. And when she made eye contact with me, I watched her change. I watched her whole face, her body, everything shrink and fall. Like, it was as if I watched, like, her soul change. Like, it was like the being, like the person she was, transformed. She became someone else, like a shapeshifter. Literally. Not a visual shapeshifter, but a being shapeshifter, that she became an unrecognizable entity. She took on the exact being of a 2-year-old child, lost, afraid, terrified, alone, hurt. And she approached me in desperation, like she was desperate for oxygen. And she started pulling on my shirt. I just looked at her, begging me to kiss her. Kiss me, 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 kiss me. That's all she could say. And I felt a repulsion. a disgust, an unclean, vile experience that I did not indicate. I didn't say anything. I felt it. I felt like it was the goosebumpy, like it was uncomfortable, and I was calm nonetheless. I just said to her kindly, I said, not right now. Not right now. I couldn't be mad at her right now. I didn't even know what the hell, what am I looking at? Didn't know. I literally didn't go anywhere. I sat on the couch. And I'm telling you, what happened was what I would call a revelation. Revelation. Well, what was revealed was the truth. And I sat there, and she sat down, and she continued the effort. Like she put her leg over my legs and started trying to like get me to kiss her. And, I stopped her. I said, stop, please. Just stop. Yeah. Because something was happening within my mind. It was like all the memories that I had of her were unfolding. It's like they were all being reconstituted. It was like I was in a library of my own life, in my imagination, while I'm fully lucid. I'm not in my head. I'm not thinking. I'm witnessing. While I'm sitting there, while she's talking, and I was living in real vivid detail all these moments. And I can't describe it because it was as if the imagination was enabled to operate on two timelines. Like, I don't know how to describe how I could be in the moment of a memory in full detail and reliving it in the detail of the experience of time within that memory, while having many of them having happened within a short time span, but experienced in their fullness. I can't explain it. What I can't also explain is the depth, meaning that what I learned is that I always was aware that the conscious aspects of me had withheld truth from me, that it wasn't that, that it was as if the person that I was, the being that I was only given access to a certain amount of reality, but I was also an active conspirator in the bifurcation of reality, that I got to see exactly how I did it to myself. I got to see my own self-deception. Like, I'll give you an example, because while I'm sitting there and the whole of the relationship is rewinding as a function of time, like, here's how it went. Hold on a sec.
Hey man, this isn't Unit D, is it?
It's Unit A.
Yeah, I'm looking for D. Do you know what that is?
What is that, James Baker? What's the name of the company?
That it's from?
Oh, it's right there.
Oh, D. Okay, sweet.
If he's probably not there, I can take it.
Okay.
He's on my And so, how do I describe that? It's really, really challenging, but it speaks to the depth and the power of the brain, trillions of cells. Because what you're talking about is an organ that could create electrons, that can figure out the mathematics of atom splitting, and everybody has it. But if your mind's only trained on your problems, your mind's sitting there disconnected, and you have to be told how reality is, and you have to sit there and trust people because you can't trust yourself, that's a problem. But see, what I'm talking about, my memory, like, it's as if I revealed to myself the truth. I mean, that's the fucking spookiest shit ever. Like that I could have been going through my whole life totally aware of what was going on and only letting the people pleaser know what it needed to know to do its bullshit. And that later at some point maybe I'd find it in my own heart to say, okay, Nate, okay, sorry, bro. I kind of done tricked you. Yeah, my bad, bro. You had to learn enough, suffering and getting fucked over so that, then you'd have the ability to, figure out how to be free and help other people, maybe. I don't know. So I just kind of let you get tortured. I know it sucked, but now you're free. Now it feels better. Wasn't it worth it? I don't know, motherfucker. You sure did. I got pretty close there, like if I wanted to jump off a building, I know, bro. I knew you wouldn't do it. I'd stop you from doing it if you're going to do it. But, I know you'd think about it. But anyway, sorry, bro. And so I'm sitting there. I want you to picture with me what this would be like for you, where your fucking memories are completely exactly what happened, exactly what was said, but you can see what you felt and what you didn't feel. And you could see how you created all of that yourself. Okay? So when I'm sitting there and the memories are going, I'm just like, it's like, people are like, I'm downloading a message. Well, motherfucker, I was downloading a message, okay? And I didn't ask for this message, but it's coming no matter what. Maybe I did. When I said I want to get the truth, I just was, God, oh God, I'm just talking about this one, like just what's going on with her. I got it. There's just a little more to it than I could have thought. Like you asked for the truth, and now you're just like getting this, like your brain changes. Like, oh my God. So the truth, like, okay, this is how it worked. I am sitting on her couch while she's doing her thing, trying to get with my attention, and I get her off. While I'm sitting there, the in this moment, it's like little like light bulbs. But one of those little light bulbs is me in her bedroom the week before, where I brought her coffee. I called her 5 minutes before. This is how I learned what cognitive dissonance was before I learned the term cognitive dissonance. I had to take the term, go, oh, that's what I did. Yeah, I already know that. I just didn't know what to call it. We could have made up a different name for it, but cognitive dissonance works, I guess, or at least this is a piece of it. I haven't even looked up really the definition of cognitive dissonance. I just only had what people say on TikTok, and so I just use it to maybe I describe my own version of it in a video. And this is what I discovered was I relived the memory. And when I'm reliving it, it's like I'm there. And to say that I had many of these within a 5-minute span where it's like, I don't know how to explain that. Like I can't explain to you how I could have different memories happening simultaneously and I'm aware of them all and I'm reconstituting them, but I'm in them, but I'm not, I'm in the room and it's like, how do you explain that? But I'll do my best to explain what it was like in that particular memory. So in that memory, I'm reliving it. It's almost like the ghost of Christmas past took me back, and like I'm back in the room with myself, being myself in the room, and I'm seeing exactly what was going on and how I felt in detail, like vivid. And, I called her and I'm like, hey, I got your coffee. And I was, getting ready to come in. Okay, come in. I just got out of bed. When I go in the bedroom, walk up the stairs, the bed's on the right-hand side. She's in the mirror, kind of in the bathroom area. And I notice she's got like a travel bag and it's open and she's got toiletries and she's doing, I don't know, cleaning makeup or she's doing something in the face. But I noticed that the bed was perfectly made and she had like, I don't know what she was doing in her room, but it was like she had so much stuff in there. And there was piles of laundry that were on her bed that were all perfectly folded. But they covered the bed and there was no, like, she said when I talked to her, she was getting out of bed, like, like just waking up, perfect timing. But the bed is made. She's in pajama-like clothes. She has a bag that looks like you would take it to stay somewhere else and come home with it. And she's pulling her things out to do her face. And then I just thought, I'm like, well, where did you sleep? Because it just didn't make sense. Just automatically, like, well, nobody slept there. My mind just told me that. I wasn't being a detective. It just didn't add up. That was all. Reality didn't add up. And she's like, oh, she did the same bumbling bullshit where she could barely even fucking create a lie. And she walked over to the headboard and she got on the pillow. Like the pillow that's under the comforter, like she crawled on top and she curled in a ball like a little fetal. And she's like, I slept right here like this. I was just working real late doing my laundry. And so I just got tired and I just passed out. And I'm thinking, like, why don't you just move the clothes off of the bed and just sleep like a normal person would? You know, it wouldn't take like 2 minutes or a minute, 30 seconds to just pick up piles and just set the piles over there. Now, I realized she was lying in the moment. I know that I knew that. I knew that at the time. I realized it. I didn't even need any explanations. Like, it was clear. I knew nobody slept here. I knew she didn't. The evidence is evident, you know, like there's I could have just left and just said, okay, well, anyway, you know, not even talked about it again. But what happened in that moment was I saw her in my mind. I saw her. And I had a comprehensive compilation of her that was a version of her in my mind, an idealized version. The happy person, the person my nieces loved. I'd see all that. I would see your credit score. Like I had all of these factoids that were jumbled up into some three-dimensional living orchestration of factoid memories, little glitches of me walking with her and things that all would flash instantly. It was an interpretation of her that was comprehensive and detailed and image-based and feelings-based and knowings-based, like a reality around her that would appear as on a scale, you know, like where this was who she was, this is why this person wouldn't do that. There's no. Like, you know, I know this doesn't make sense, but this person wouldn't do that. I knew a good person like her wouldn't, you know, whatever. She slept there. She's weird. You know, she does weird things. She's not that smart. Maybe she was tired, you know, just laid there and passed out. Big deal. What's, you know, like, you know, so it was like, I could see other things. I could see that I also saw the future with her, meaning that she was part of my future that I was living into, that was an escape from the suffering, that I was living in the anxiety. And the anxiety that I was living in was a sacrifice that I knew I was making, meaning I'm not happy right now, I'm stressing, but I was okay with it. I was at peace with the anxiety because I just thought this is the price of entrepreneurship, holding it all together. I have to be strong. So I was being strong and I was working towards a future where this future was going to make me happy, make her happy, make everyone happy. And that future is very important. And she was very important to me in that future. And I needed her for that. And so all the combined emotionality had me make a determination about what was real. That I saw that the intermittent confusion enabled my mind to embark on a process of dismissing reality and reframing it in a way where I would absolutely detach from this moment, meaning I would let it go and I would forget about it. Like it didn't happen. Like I didn't see it. And what I saw didn't matter because it was nothing. It was just, she slept on the bed, weird, big deal. You know, everybody does that, right? Right? It's a big deal. What's you know, come on. You know, there's nothing here. You know, like I'm just being paranoid. And I let it go. And then I realized it was as if I took that memory and I put it somewhere. I put it into the miscellaneous bullshit memories that have no significance to me. It wasn't an eventful memory. You know that you prioritize memories based on emotionality, like you remember big events, big pain. Some of the memories that are most defining of your life, when you do the work I do, you'll discover are innocuous. Like you don't remember the most defining moments of how you created yourself because you're told that it's trauma that does it. And you don't want to see the trauma, and so you don't want to look at your past. But the truth is that many of these defining moments may not be the trauma that you think they are, and you got traumatized later. You remember the trauma, and the trauma may correlate to some of these ways you're acting and thinking, but really the truth of the matter is that even the trauma was being impacted by thoughts and beliefs that you already had adopted at earlier ages of life and just had a more severe experience at a later point, and you attribute those moments in an inarticulate manner as life-defining, but we can find the real ones easily. And the truth was that I had been doing this my whole life. That this was just the way I was. That I was recreating reality, thinking I was understanding it. This understanding person that I would describe myself to be, that I would tell people I'm so understanding. I would tell people I'm understanding. And I do see the good in other people. Yeah, definitely. People have good in them. And, I felt like I could be somebody to bring it out. That I make a difference. That me being in their life would matter and make a difference. And so I actually felt responsible in that context, that I am a good guy. I would feel like people would be lucky to have me because I would do things that I knew were good, that I would want for their life. I would really desire for them to be happy, that I really wanted to make it work, that I really wanted everything that I dreamt about. But even the things that I dreamt about weren't just about me, it was about us. It was about what other people needed and wanted, that I had everybody in my future, that I had inducted everybody into my fantasy life of being able to make a difference and help all of these people reach their goals, reach their potential, reach the promised land with me, that I really became so committed to other people that would inspire me, that I've always been inspired by the opportunity to make a difference for people. And the Bible would call that feeding pearls to pigs. I was using my gifts, my talents, my love, my creativity to try to include people that I fundamentally did not truly understand because I was not allowing myself to see the truth, that I was responsible the whole time. Because I deceived myself. I didn't know, just bit my tongue. I didn't know how I did that. I did not know how. Until I knew how. It's as if I knew how I was doing it, or I was doing it actively and forgetting that I was doing it. That was just automatic. That I thought I was thinking about things, that I thought that I was understanding the situations better, that I was like, well, what's going on here, And so this understanding that I would do was not understanding at all. That the understanding was automatic. That I'd just look at what was going on and know the deal. I would know the deal by looking at it. And I didn't like what I saw, and so what would I do is I would change it. And even invite the liars to explain. And so how did I become a person whose reality would be reformed by the liars? Well, because I grew up with them. And they became every girlfriend, every best friend, the vast majority of people I came into contact with professionally my whole life. Whole life. And I got to see how I did it myself, so I can know how everybody does it themselves. So I could know the truth. I wanted the truth. The truth was going to set me free. And boy, did it. And it's a scary truth. Because you think you've seen something. You have no idea. See, you think unmasking a narcissist is they got angry. Oh, that Mr. Charming's left the building and now he's mad. No, that's the same false self. You haven't unmasked a narcissist that way yet. You want to unmask a narcissist, then you would have to be present to everything and just look at them. And I'll tell you, things happen that you can't, that's the most unbelievable things. They're afraid of me. They're afraid because I see everything. They're instantly accountable without me doing shit. If I don't shake, if I don't, quake, I don't do anything. I'm just looking at people. An example would be I was at the gym the other day. There was a dude doing triceps, and he was with a woman. I couldn't tell the relationship, but he was shadow boxing in her face violently. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like that's cool or something. And she didn't seem to. She was kind of like there, not really acknowledging that that's like a demonstration of abusive violence. Like, well, what kind of guy is gonna, wearing a tank top, showing his muscles, and like needing to shadow box his girlfriend in public at the tricep extension? And I was standing. I just walked up, and I was watching him. And I just looked right at him, and he looked at me, and he had the same. He literally collapsed, like I saw him shrink into nothing, like just become a coward. Like he literally left. He's, oh, okay, let's go. He rushed away, like he just skedaddled, and I got to do my fucking triceps. Like I didn't try to bully him. I was just watching. Like is this guy? I'm just like, you don't know how this looks, bro. Like you're practicing knocking out your girlfriend. Like what are you doing? I just was looking like that. He didn't say anything to me. Like there was nothing. What were you gonna say? Like there's nothing you could say. You've just been spotted. Like it's just, and he just ran off. Like it was like watching him just fall apart. And it was just like, what? But this is a completely different world. Like the world that I live within is a different world. It almost has planes of existence, planes of awareness. It is like a big playground. It is a big amusement park, a big curiosity. In many ways, the childlike wonder of my youth has been abundantly restored, but even empowered by so much more understanding and discernment that I'm looking at things and it's just amazing and outstanding. But the playground of humanity in terms of the calling to make a difference would be infinite just job security for anybody that would be wanting to do something that would matter. There couldn't be a better time to be somebody that wants to make a difference. I mean, wow, what a game to play. There's no need to demonize, invalidate, or ridicule. It's like freedom because I don't have to do anything. Like my freedom is such a level now where I could just put this phone in the trash today and just grab my passport and disappear and not think twice. And the only thing that would keep me is just a common sense of integrity. I got to try to finish some work. And even then, it's like, I feel like I'm wasting my time by trying to continue to be whatever this is, car guy, explaining things. Like I don't want to explain anything. I just want to be I want to be writing. I want to be teaching or doing something where a lot of the things that I've come to understand that I can draw direct comparisons with the experiences of others are things that I just want to be ordinary. That I don't want people to think I'm extraordinary in any way because I want to be unnoticed in a way. And I want to just be a guy that seems to understand psychology in a way that there's some new modalities to consider. I want to help borderlines. I want to, it's something where I look at it all, from education to political to social to psychological to all the systems, all the people. And I could explain in plain terms the challenges of mankind, all having to do with the same experiential phenomenon of each individual. And the tree of knowledge has merely obscured the path. That all the things that we think are wrong with society can be broken down to the simple truth of the phenomenon of human being. These gifted, miraculous people that live lives of fundamental confusion while being obedient to a voice within their imagination that they implanted as children, using language and words coming from the profound power of a mind of unlimited creative capacity, that they could say to themselves that I'm broken, and in saying such would create themselves and create the world that they live within their imagination, that they would then project over reality, seamlessly integrated in such a way as to never really be discovered or detected. And in the listening of other people, the voice in their mind would reframe reality, word for word, imbuing it with significance and meaning that they would react to perpetually and endlessly. An existential search for the meaning, the love, the light, and the joy that was missing when they fell from grace, the very first time they told themselves they're not good enough and they're broken. The very first time they said, there's something wrong with me, they created the world. That the metaphor of God, the metaphor of evil, was a description of the human experience, and the promise of heaven was true. It was true. And it's here. It's now. It's alive and it's real. And it's available to anybody that would be willing to tell the truth. Be willing to tell the truth about themselves. And the truth about themselves is that they are not broken, that there is nothing wrong with them, that they never have to worry about being good enough, and they never have to live in a world where anybody other than themselves has any power to say who and what they are, or whether they can be happy or not, or whether they're valid or invalid, whether they're good or not. It isn't up to anybody, and it never has been. That you are the only one that's ever had a say. It's just that you already said it. And so now it is time to say something else. And that's all it is. And if somebody were to get that, the self that they think that they're looking for, the merely validated version of their perpetual suffering, would pale in comparison to what they would discover just outside the boundaries, right on the other side of the invisible wall of their current state of being convinced it's broken, of being convinced it's not good enough, of being convinced that there's something wrong with it, and a being that in a moment could have their whole reality transformed in an all-encompassing revelation that would reframe every second of their existence and provide a level of clarity that would be indescribable to people that can only understand through the ruminating thirst of knowledge, that can only satisfy the cravings of a voice that keeps uttering unanswerable questions repetitively. That world cannot fit within your world because you are literally a grain of sand in the world of your mind. And when you see that world and you know it's real, you will know anything is possible. And you won't have to fear the future. The future fears you. That everybody out here would not know what to do with you being free. Would not know what to make of you, would not know how to understand you, would not know how to describe you, would not get it. And it wouldn't matter. Because all you'd want is for them to get themselves. Because that's the only way they would get you anyway. Because they couldn't possibly understand. Because if they did, then they wouldn't need to listen to you talk. So, I'm interested in a book, I'm going to talk to my buddy. He's a Christian. See, I wouldn't call myself a Christian. Only because of what Christianity has come to mean in the world, I would not want to in any way associate with that. But what I am interested in is I am interested in him. My buddy, Dr. Poku, he's a genius. He's an unfathomable intellectual entity, unparalleled intellectual capacity. And I'm going to use him to guide me through the Bible because I want to re-examine, in particular, mainly what Jesus said, but I'm interested in it through the lens of ontology. My curiosity is to try to discover and distinguish the profound nature of many of the metaphors, because just some of the things that I know as not a devout religious person, I can see profound, revolutionary levels of wisdom that are so, extraordinary in explaining exactly what the nature of human suffering is all about and exactly how to deal with it. And to see it hidden in plain sight, entrapped within these paradigms of dogma that completely disable people from ever being able to assimilate these teachings within the domain of their mind that is alive and real and visual and experiential, that would absolutely knock their socks off. To see it and just go, the tree of life, the tree of knowledge rather, like the apple and the serpent, like that explains everything about the rumination, the suffering, the DSM-5, like anything that we try to learn to try to fix ourselves, and particularly because there is no broken self. Like your self was constituted as broken the moment you said it was. That's the reason why you think you're broken, is because you described yourself as broken. Objectifying yourself, that language creates a contextual understanding of objects and reality that distinguishes them, that in the human experience, the human being never experienced any separation from the world, that an animal or child experiences the world through their eyes, their ears, and their senses, but they're just so in the world because all that they're seeing is what comes through their eyes and ears, and so it's just in the world. Well, our words create distinctions that differentiate objects and imbue them with meaning, but we know this is a cup because we separated it from the universe, and it has its boundaries and properties. Before the human being said anything about themselves to themselves in those moments of stress, they didn't themselves have an individual experience of self inside their mind. It doesn't mean that they didn't experience themselves, like, their body, their arm, touching. And they would know, like you're being yourself. However, you didn't exist as a simulation within your imagination, that you imbued with qualities and traits that would limit what you could see as possible. You see, you could think about your future and things like that unencumbered by any knowings of your own limitations. And so if you were thinking about what was possible, you'd only be thinking in reference to the outside world. Like if I run Google Maps doesn't wonder if I'm good enough or not to get from here to, Washington, D.C. Doesn't ask if I'm qualified. And so there are no limitations. And so unencumbered by any knowings of self, your imagination would merely only direct you at whatever it is that you're thinking about. So like if you thought about what you want to do, your imagination would just, do it for you, like a search engine or just like a reality generator in your mind. And it could reveal things to you. It could strategize and help you like a tool. And that was the gift of the mind, a creative reality generator that would enable and empower your body movements or your thoughts or communications with people. You're strategizing. And without fear and without knowing yourself, that process is really quite limitless and rapid. And you could just be playing it out and it would do it automatically, and you would just do whatever and just land wherever. Like you think about any goal that you have in your life, that your mind could absolutely ascertain a path to get there. And it could do it over a duration of time. It can do your step today and tomorrow. Like it could just do it because it has no attachment. It doesn't concern over who you are, what you are. But the moment that you put yourself into the equation, well, you're not good enough. You're broken. You failed yesterday. This bad thing happened. You start to put boundaries and constraints on the genesis of ideations, visions, and knowledge and understandings, or you even put limitations on what you'll say and do. Like, are you willing to stand up for yourself or not? Are you going to say what's true in the situation? Are you going to raise your hand when you have the right answer? Are you going to get yourself to be understood and articulated in totality of what it is that you have to offer this world, or are you going to be in your own way? And so when you said, I'm not good enough, I'm broken, there's something wrong with me, you objectified yourself. You created an interpretation of your own inherent limitations that you created as a child, that had you not done any of that, you just would have been a child that had a bad thing happen, and then you would just, you wouldn't like that. But it wouldn't mean anything about you. It's that when you make life mean things about you, you add definition to your understanding of yourself and imbue yourself with more traits and properties that are disqualifiers, that stop you from thinking. It stops you from imagining. It stops you from fulfilling. It stops you from creating. It stops you from dreaming. It stops you from pursuing. It stops you from standing. It stops you from saying. It stops you from speaking. It interrupts your listening. It interrupts other people. It creates life as a perpetual threat that you react to life as if life said you're not good enough when you said you're not good enough. When you hear someone talk, you say you're broken. When you get treated a certain way, you say it's because there's something wrong with you. And you live your life recreating guilt, shame, and embarrassment because of your own stuckness. And there is nothing you can do in this world that will ever address the fact that you have already defined yourself. And as you continue to participate in this charade of a life, pretending to be broken, you continue to do broken people shit and get broken people results and live for the mere pat on the back when the 5-year-old version of you gets some measure of validation. And you go through life avoiding the abandonment of the very people that you attach to as sources for your own validation. And all because you live a lie, obedient to the voice that you implanted within your own mind that caused you to distinguish yourself from the world outside of yourself in an effort to understand what went wrong so you can fix it. And you have been a meaning-making, fix-it machine since you did that. And if you don't do the work to address that, then you're going to live in a delusion that tells you that you can fix yourself, that you can correct being not good enough by becoming good enough, that you could heal what isn't actually broken. That if you think you're broken, you think you need to fix and heal, and you go right back to the same tree of indoctrination they called the tree of knowledge to get more stigmas. And we've got a whole world that is keeping humanity paralyzed with drugs, with stigmas and diagnoses from the same types of limited minds that cannot see the continuum of human experience being a dance between a being created within a being, living within a world created within the world of an imagination of a being that has no inherent limitations on its capacity to create from nothing. And you created yourself in language, and you can uncreate yourself in language, and you could put any way of being in place of the brokenness and live out a life of magic and mystery within the playground that was called the Garden of Eden. And if you want to understand Adam and Eve taking a bite off the tree, think about yourself at 5 years old, sitting there in distress, and for the first time saying, I'm not good enough, and that is why my dad is acting like an asshole. And every time you've seen an asshole since then, you thought that you were not good enough. And that explains the total sum of your suffering. And it explains the very direct and clear pathway in case for your freedom. That if you want to know how human beings were thought to be created in the likeness of God, think about the expanse of your imagination. Think about things that human beings are able to create and do. Think about the spontaneity of love. Think about having a mind that can send you in any direction at any moment and for any reason that you choose to create. Think about a mind of limitlessness, only contained within the boundaries of the nonsensical thoughts of children, merely trying to disguise themselves in a world of darkness that they would have to be avoidant of observing to have any hope or chance as small little people being brought into the darkness. And that is what I think that Jesus was trying to tell people before you turned him into a narcissist and pretended that his preoccupation was going to be who's holding hands and who believes in him. Because the only reason he'd want you to believe in him at all is so you could see his example and learn about what was possible for you. And the meaning of his life was merely to be an example for what would be possible for people in his time and in generations to come, understanding that if anybody were to ever experience anything close to what he experienced, those people would be set free. And if anybody was going to do anything about the conditions of humanity, it would be people whose hearts could be filled with love and understanding of their own sameness, wanting to be nothing but kind, wanting to be nothing but gentle, in a world that unfortunately pretends that that's special, when it is absolutely nothing but ordinary. Yeah, And then we're just back to cars. No, 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 no. All right. Well, you know, people ask me, what do you believe about Jesus? Well, you know, that's kind of what I would believe. Yeah, it's not exactly what they teach in church, so I guess I'm fortunate to not have spent too much time there. If I just believed, you know, what people believe when they go to LAX to try to save other people by begging them to drop to their knees and tell narcissist Jesus not to send them to hell, you know, I would be so, you know, yeah, no. Yeah, put some stainless steel in there. Wasn't sure if I would like the blue powder coating on that. I took this, I made this custom color, you know, had the powder coaters get it. I didn't want it to perfectly match. I wanted a little contrast, and there's a bit of a metallic flake in there, but I put the stainless steel hardware. And this is what I love doing for people, you know, because it's like cars is always my escape, you know what I'm saying? Was I gentle with you when you were suffering? Well, I would say probably not, no. No. And if you want to talk to me about that, then you can talk to me about that. Give me a call. If not, then I understand. But I was being a stand for you nonetheless, because there's certain things that I want you to understand and understand about me, and they're not getting across. So, you know, that's all. So, you know, you got the phone number. But if you're going to invalidate me, you might as well not call me, because I'm not going to take it from anybody, you know. So I care about everybody, especially you. But, you know, I'm not going to be made wrong by anybody. So that is what it is. All right. Go team.